I do not own Naruto or any of its characters. All right, does everyone have a slip now? Asked Sarutobi in front of the crowd of tired and rather worse-off genin. Then starting at the left, each of you read the number written on your slip out loud. I have 8, said Dosu. I have 1. What does that mean? Asked Naruto. A few people chuckled. 7, sighed Tamari. 5, said Kankuro in the same fashion as his sister. 3, said Gaara, expressionless as always. I have 9, mumbled Shikamaru. 2, said Niji, acting so cool. 6, said Shino, also expressionless. So Uchiha will be the 4th, Ibiki said, writing on his clipboard, good. And now I will reveal the match order for the finals. What? Exclaimed many people, including loudmouth Naruto. So that's what the drawing was for. Shikamaru sighed, wondering who he'd be up against. Well, Ibiki, show them the pairings, said Sarutobi. Ibiki slowly turned his clipboard toward the ninjas. There you could see 9 names paired and grouped in 2s, except for Shikamaru. Naruto U versus Niji H. Niji right off the bat thought Naruto in a sense of inner joy, perfect. I'll beat him for you, Hinata, and make him pay for what he did. Gaara versus Sasuke's U. Many people gasped, already anticipating the match, visualizing a dead Sasuke. Kankuro versus Shino A. Kankuro smirked. This would be too easy.
Shikamaru vs Dosu.
Great sound boy, Shikamaru thought.
Shikamaru vs Temari.
What a drag. I have to do 2 matches, mumbled Shikamaru, disappointed, already finding it too much work to do 1 match. Now then, it's time for you to go plan for your battle. Come up with new moves. Rest up or do whatever you please. We're all finished here. See you in a month. Get out. With that, Sarutobi and all the genin and jonin left the arena filled with craters, not to meet again for another month. I need to ask Master Kakashi for some more training, thought Naruto after the group of Chunin hopefuls left in a scramble. Hey Sakura, where's Master Kakashi? Screamed Naruto. He's probably with Sasuke at the hospital, Sakura responded. Naruto took off toward the Konoha hospital, determined to beat Sasuke to Kakashi for training. Hey, where's Sasuke's room? Asked Naruto, standing on top of the counter. Visiting hours are over, the secretary said calmly, despite the boy standing on the counter in front of her. But why? Naruto, you're in a hospital, said Kakashi. Shut up. Oh, Master Kakashi, I need a favor. Naruto was cut off mid-sentence by Kakashi. Stop right there. I already know what you're about to ask, so I found someone to oversee your training, Kakashi said in a cheerful tone. Huh? I wanted you to train me, Kakashi-sensei, sighed Naruto, sounding disappointed. Kakashi shifted where he stood. I've got other things going on. I wouldn't be able to give you my full attention, Kakashi said, feeling bad for the blonde. Let me guess, you're too busy training Sasuke, right? Mumbled Naruto. Now, don't be jealous. I found you an even better teacher than me, Kakashi said. Anyway, Sasuke has a certain set of skills that makes him a perfect student for me. He sounded excited, hoping to cheer up the boy. Unsuccessfully. Who is it? Naruto grunted, upset by the turnout of this. It worked better in his head beforehand. At precisely at right moment, a thin man dressed in black emerged from around the corner. It is I, said Ebisu. Hey, you're that closet perv, Naruto said jokingly, pointing him finger at Ebisu. Master Ebisu, a closet perv? Said Kakashi, confused by Naruto's reaction. Why would you choose such a loser to be my trainer? I mean, he's even weaker than me. Come on. One time he even fell for my ninja harem jutsu technique, and Naruto was cut off by Ebisu putting him in a headlock. Hey, don't say it, said Ebisu, who was blushing. I'll treat you to whatever you want later, so don't say anything more about it. Okay. Ebisu whispered into Naruto's ear. Wow. I didn't know you two already knew each other, said Kakashi, still confused by the scene unfolding in front of him. He shifted and leaned against the wall, eager to get back to his star pupil. Well, we best be off then, Ebisu said nervously. Where are we going? Asked Naruto. You'll see, Ebisu responded, eager to leave before Naruto said anything more incriminating. Before they could leave, Kakashi gave Naruto a small pep talk. Now Naruto, Master Ebisu is an exclusive private tutor who teaches the elite. He's a special jonin. He's a better teacher than me, I promise. Yeah, I won't believe till I see it, and besides, doesn't saying that he's a special jonin mean he wasn't good enough to be a real one? Said Naruto. Now, lighten up and have fun. Kakashi finished off with his weird I smile thing. Ebisu took Naruto on a walk to the local hot springs, attempting to explain the point of chakra control on the way. As Naruto walked in, he got a peek in at the woman's bath. By the time Ebisu noticed, Naruto all slack jaw. Wha? Hey Naruto, that's the woman's bath, Ebisu exclaimed. I will not permit any disreputable behavior. He proceeded to hit Naruto in the head. Why does everyone hit me on the head? Naruto thought. Sakura, now Ebisu? You're the one who's the closet perv, Naruto said under his breath. What? Do we have to take a bath before we can start training? No, this is where we're going to train. Ebisu ushered Naruto into the men's side of the hot springs. What do you mean we're going to train here? Asked Naruto. Think, what you can do in a hot spring in terms of training? Asked Ebisu. I don't know, learn how to control water, I guess, responded Naruto, still drawing a blank. We're going, Ebisu said, to walk on water. Rather than explaining it, Ebisu continued, I'll just show you. Ebisu started walking toward the water, and when he reached it, instead of walking into it, he stepped on it as if it was a solid surface. When he had reached the middle of the hot spring, he turned and looked at Naruto with a smug expression. Now I want to see you do this. If a closet perv can do it, so that means the next Hokage, Naruto Uzumaki, can do it as well, thought Naruto. So cool. Let me try, Naruto begged. Just don't expect to get it the first time. And he didn't. As Naruto would build up his chakra, he would either have too much or too little, so he would fly 100 feet away or fall into the boiling water below. But after many tries he started to get the hang of it, and he was doing like a half-in, half-out thing. But just as Ebisu was just about to comment on Naruto's progress, he heard a man giggling like a schoolgirl. Whipping his head around, he saw the source of the laughter. A man with white hair peeking in on the women's bath. Outraged, Ebisu took off toward the uber perv shouting, I will not stand disreputable behavior. Faster than most people could see, the man turned around and a frog came out of nowhere, smacking into Ebisu, and knocked him out all in the blink of an eye. All Ebisu could say was, "You're." Then he was unconscious. Naruto could only stare. Well, great. I have to train for the Chunin exams. And you super perv knocked out my closet perv sensei. Now who's gonna train me? Naruto pouted, thinking about how his situation was worsening by the second. I don't know and I don't care, said the super perv, turning his back to Naruto and started walking toward the exit. Well, great, he's a stubborn super perv, thought Naruto before starting laughing, on the inside at least. You're the one who knocked him out, so it's your job to train me, Naruto exclaimed. The super perv stopped mid-step and thought a second. You sure do talk a lot, the super perv responded. How about I say, no? His tone was firm. Now let me finish my research. If there are any girls left, he said under his breath. Now Naruto was getting annoyed. What? Looking at girls in the bath is artharsic. Naruto made quite a scene, causing himself to lose concentration in the process and falling into the scalding water below. Quiet, quiet. I don't want them to hear you, the super perv whispered. And anyway, what's in it for me? You're just another snot-nosed brat wanting training. What makes you so different? Well, Naruto thought, seeing as how he's such a huge perv, this should work.
Sexy jutsu.
Naruto preformed his jutsu that he made up to be an ultimate attack to knock out most men with its vulgarness. Except it doesn't work on pervs like him, it does quite the opposite. Naruto disappeared in a puff of smoke. When the smoke cleared, he had turned to a too familiar girl that Naruto had copied from a magazine. The old perv's face went from a confused expression to a look of complete joy and lunged forward at Naruto surprised. When he hit a real body instead of an illusion, and instead of a bloody nose like normal, he started drooling. That's not a normal reaction, thought Naruto. Now will you train me? Asked Naruto in a sexy, cunning voice. Yes, but on one condition. The old perv's face was now in an evil, happy expression. Okay, what is it? Naruto asked, not expecting anything good. You have to stay like that the whole time. Naruto reappeared with his arms crossed, frowning. What more could I expect from an old perv? Thought Naruto. Okay, here's the deal. I'll do it once in a while. Fine, but even I can tell that was more than a simple illusion. It was a true physical transfer that's like a Kage-level transformation jutsu. I can't even do that. I'm impressed. I'd like to see what other tricks you have up your sleeve. The perv smiled. So, what's your name, kid? Uzumaki Naruto, said Naruto, giving him a thumbs up, surprised about what Head said. Kage level. I just thought that's what everyone did. I just looked at what everyone did and copied it since nobody would show me how it was really done. No, it couldn't be, could it? The old perv asked himself. Meet me at the falls tomorrow morning at 8. Okay, kid? Okay. But I never got your name, asked Naruto, trying to get a little info about this old perv. So a first-name basis seemed like a good place to start. I am the Toad Sage, Jiraiya. And with that, the old perv got into his battle stance similar to the Hyuga style and did a toothy smile, then went back to casual stance and walked out of the springs looking like he'd found his long-lost twin, and with a wave he was gone. But Naruto was getting hungry, so he started the short walk from the hot springs to the Ichiraka ramen shop. Can I have one bowl of ramen, please? Naruto asked the man behind the counter at the ramen shop. I'll have the same, said a mysterious yet familiar voice. Irika-sensei, Naruto yelled in a tone of delight, happy to see his old sensei. I heard you got trough to the third part of the Chunin exams, said Irika between bites. I'm proud of you. Have another bowl on me. Thanks, Irika-sensei. The next morning Naruto got up and decided to go check up on Hinata, who was in the hospital. When he got permission to go see Hinata from the secretary, who reminded him to be quiet, he headed toward her room. On his way in he passed a very cold-looking Hayashi. Naruto hadn't expected Hinata to be awake after yesterday, but to his surprise she was. As Naruto walked in, Hinata turned to a bright red, which was not unusual for when Naruto was near her. Hey Hinata, glad to see you're awake, Naruto said, putting his hands behind his head and giving her a toothy grin. And Naruto, what are you doing here? Hinata muttered. She squirmed under Naruto's stare. I just wanted to see how you're doing and all, Naruto replied. Glad to see you're awake. Naruto moved to sit at the foot of her hospital bed. Really? Hinata was suddenly ecstatic. Her most precious person came to visit her, and she was brimming on fainting just from that comment. So how you feeling? Naruto was kind of taken aback by the mood suddenly changing. Gee, good, I guess, considering how I was beforehand. Glad I woke you up when you came, Hinata mumbled, then shot Naruto a weak smile. Yeah, I'll say. I like you more awake opposed to when you're passed out anyways, said Naruto, not realizing what he'd said before. Ironically, Hinata passed out. Seeing that as a sign to leave, he started his journey toward the falls to meet Jiraiya, who was early, the opposite to Kakashi. But as he got closer, he noticed that he was early so he could get some peeping in before he started training. Naruto took the chance to embarrass him by screaming, Hey! What the hell do you think you're doing? It worked even better than he thought. Jiraiya just about jumped out of his skin, turning around with his eyebrow twitching and his finger up to his mouth, the rightfully named pervy sage. SHHH, you'll scare away the view. Wise words from a pervert, Naruto thought to himself, trying to contain his laughter. Come on, let's start training already, Naruto demanded, stomping his foot on the ground. Look, now they're leaving. Jiraiya pouted. Okay, what I'm about to show you is so unbelievably awesome. So cool. It practically is what gives me the name Toad Sage. The old perv loves to get the blonde all excited. It's just hilarious to see his reaction. Show me, show me, show me. Naruto squealed, so excited that he would be able to show off his new move to Sasuke. Naruto was practically bursting at the seams with excitement. Not so fast, Squirt. You have to get that walking on water thing down first. It's essential to this new move I will show you. Naruto sighed and dropped his head in disappointment. Well, might as well get dressed for the part, seeing as I'm gonna get wet. I brought my bathing suit 'cause I thought you were gonna teach me the same old crap that the closet perv could do. Naruto started taking his clothes off and the old perv's face skewed up. What a petite little body you have. Then he burst out laughing. Naruto was not equally pleased and said disapprovingly, "Shut up, you old perv," and hit him on the head. "I'm just playing with ya. Now give it a try." Jiraiya said, still wiping tears from his eyes. Naruto did as he was told, building up his chakra and walking toward the water. But he ended up in a half situation again, so when he fell in a few seconds later, he was noticeably frustrated at still not being able to do it. "Hey, Squirt, I think I know what's wrong. Come here." Jiraiya asked Naruto to build up his chakra facing him this time, and his suspicions were confirmed. When the Kyuubi seal appeared, there was Orochimaru's five-prong seal, disturbing Naruto's chakra flow, something Jiraiya could rectify. Naruto had his eyes closed concentrating, so Jiraiya took this as a chance to reverse the seal. Each one of Jiraiya's fingers on his right hand lit up, and he smashed his hand into Naruto's stomach, sending him flying backwards. "What the hell did you do that for?" Naruto asked, fuming. "Never mind that now, try it again," Jiraiya said, chuckling again. Naruto snorted but did as he was told. But to his surprise, instead of falling in again, he walked on top just as Ebisu had done the previous day. Shocked, he started jumping up and down, giving Jiraiya a toothy grin, so happy to finally be able to walk on water. "What did you do?" Naruto asked, bringing his jumping to a halt. "It's a secret," Jiraiya said, smiling with the blonde, figuring it wouldn't make a difference to explain to him. Usually Naruto would have pressed for details, but just gave him a shrug and lost his concentration and fell in. Naruto emerged from the water smiling. Jiraiya, chuckling on the shore, got up and helped Naruto out of the water. He handed him a towel and asked if he wanted to go for ramen for lunch to celebrate. Naruto's smile slipped as he dried himself off. He thought if this what having a dad was like, having fun and working together. Naruto felt all that emotion swelling up, threatening to come out as he started to realize what having a family was like. Not having it his whole life, he didn't know what it was like to have someone to look up to, someone to hold precious to him. "Sure, pervy sage," Naruto said while putting his clothes back on. After Jiraiya tricked Naruto into buying both his and Naruto's ramen, and after saying his goodbyes to Jiraiya, and both agreeing to meet late in the day, he went home thinking how he'd go see Hinata in the morning and see how she's feeling. Naruto walked into Hinata's hospital room. He saw that she was asleep, her face blank, expressionless. Naruto stood there watching her sleep. "You changed her, Naruto," said a voice from behind Naruto. "Hi, Kurenai-sensei," Naruto said, lost in his thoughts. "What do you mean?" "She's always been watching you, Naruto. She always respected you. Just you cheering for her gave her confidence to fight," Kurenai explained. "You've inspired her to be a better person." She walked up behind him and put her hand on his shoulder, both of them smiling as they watched Hinata. Naruto didn't respond. He just stood there, watching, wishing she would wake up so he could tell her how he felt. Hinata really cared about me, Naruto thought to himself. I wish I would have realized sooner before all this, before she got hurt. Not being able to stand there anymore, he left to go meet Jiraiya, hoping training would bring up the spirit of the day. And maybe he could get this killer move down. "Hey, why you hiding behind that bush, you old perv? What you doing, peeping?" Naruto screamed to a man hiding behind a bush, looking at a few girls playing in the river a few meters away, and with a few muffled screams and a couple splashes they were gone, followed by a glare from the old man. "Why must you always interrupt my research?" Jiraiya pouted, dragging his feet on his way out of his hiding spot. "You promised you'd show me that killer move, remember?" Naruto asked, tapping his foot in a disapproving fashion. "Okay. If I show you, you have to leave me alone to do my research," Jiraiya said, still disappointed about how Naruto seems to ruin his every moment today. "Okay, now show me," Naruto said. Without further explanation, Jiraiya bit his thumb and pressed his palm on the ground where a pattern formed around his hand. And then poof, Jiraiya was sitting on a giant toad with a scroll in its mouth. "You're gonna show me how to do that? Cool," Naruto screamed. He looked like someone who had won the lottery. "Yes. But before I do that, you have to sign this scroll in your blood," Jiraiya explained, amused by Naruto's reaction. "Okay. But why in my blood?" Naruto asked, squeamish. "Because the summoning jutsu is more or less a teleportation jutsu, and it uses your blood as a conductor," Jiraiya explained enthusiastically. "So you have to sign your name in blood on the scroll and press an imprint of each of your fingers on the very bottom, so they can recognize that it's you who summoned them. Got it?" "I think so." With that, the giant frog uncurled his tongue, and the scroll hit the ground in front of Naruto and unrolled itself. Naruto did as he was told. He bit his thumb and wrote his name beside the last, touched each of his fingers onto his bloody thumb, and pressed his hand on the bottom of the scroll like Jiraiya said. After Jiraiya showed Naruto the proper hand signs and minor details, he sent him to practice. "I'd be shocked if he got anything more than a tadpole the first time," Jiraiya thought, anticipating what he will summon. So Naruto did exactly what Jiraiya told him to and bit his thumb, pressed his palm into the earth, and the same pattern showed up around his hand as Jiraiya's had a few minutes ago. But instead of a giant frog, he got a tadpole. "Why would I expect anything else?" thought Jiraiya. "Arg. Why isn't it working?" Naruto asked, himself frustrated. "Poof! Another tadpole," Naruto wailed. "Wait, look, pervy sage." Jiraiya looked up from the book he was reading. "What? It looks the same as all the others." Jiraiya sighed. "No, this one has legs," Naruto exclaimed, being a little overexcited about it. "Oh, what an improvement," Jiraiya responded sarcastically. Setting his book down, he looked more intently at Naruto. "Hey kid, come over here," Jiraiya asked, putting his hand up and motioned for Naruto to come over. "What do you want?" Naruto said, still upset from his numerous failures. He went and sat down beside Jiraiya. "Have you ever felt two kinds of chakras inside of you?" Jiraiya asked out of the blue. Well, if you're talking colors, then I guess," Naruto explained. "My normal chakra would be blue and the other would be red, but sometimes I feel this other stuff. I have no idea what it is though, just as I thought about the first two. Now, could you try to get that red chakra flowing?" Jiraiya asked. "I could try." Naruto responded uncertainly. He started focusing, but to no avail. "Nothing. The only time I have ever gotten it is when I was in danger, or something like I was really emotional." Naruto was hoping Jiraiya wasn't going to try to kill him.
Danger? Où?
"I know just the spot." "Hey Naruto, let's go for a walk," Jiraiya said solemnly. "Ok." As Naruto and Jiraiya walked silently, a few thoughts crossed Naruto's mind. "Where are we going?" was a given. "I hope Hinata's alright, and I wish I could go get some ramen. I missed lunch." Suddenly, Jiraiya stopped. "Your training ends here. If you can't even produce more than a tadpole, you're not even worth training." Before Naruto could complain, Jiraiya lifted his hand and flicked Naruto in the forehead with surprising force, sending him flying backwards off a cliff which seemed to have no bottom Naruto could see. All he could hear was wind whistling in his ears as he fell, his mind flickering back to this morning with Hinata. "I'm sorry, Hinata. I'm sorry I couldn't beat Niji for you. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you how much I care for you. I'm sorry. Okay, let's get to saving my life." Summoning was his only option, but as he was building up his chakra, he sensed the red chakra taking over. Ah! Naruto wailed, as he felt like he was being squeezed trough a hole too small for his body. Then he was on solid ground again. Wait, Naruto thought, where am I? What just happened? And why am I here? Family heirloom chap 2 realization. Where am I? Naruto jumped up, am I dead? He asked himself, touching all over his body to make sure he was alive, and trying to get his head around the situation. Well, what happened first? I was falling, now I'm in the hospital lobby, that doesn't add up. Wait, so? A silver-haired jonin walked toward a ruckus coming from the hospital lobby. Figuring that it was Naruto coming to ask for training, already having planed a speech, he was prepared to disappoint the blonde. But while he was on his way there, the noise suddenly stopped. He decided that either Naruto was unconscious or dead, but both were improbable since there was only a secretary there. But as he came around the corner, he saw a very confused Naruto. He looked like someone asked him to solve a math question. As Kakashi walked up to the dumb blonde, Naruto suddenly noticed the silver-hair ninja and suddenly was relieved that he could ask him what had happened. Why am here? Naruto wailed to Kakashi. How the hell should I know? Kakashi said flatly, slowing his pace the closer he got to Naruto. Wait, what day is it, Kakashi-sensei? Naruto asked sheepishly, not wanting to know the answer. Wednesday. Not understanding why he would ask such questions, Kakashi was starting to question Naruto's sanity. And oh, it's Saturday, Naruto wailed, so confused. Ok. Maybe Naruto's mind snapped after winning the 2 rounds of the Chunin exams, having been so happy. I'd expect him to be asking for training, not to know what day it was. Kakashi thought to himself playfully, but concerned for the blonde's well-being. XDX. Okay, let's go over this again. I built up my chakra for a summoning and I ended up here. Naruto receded into his thoughts again and left the world of the living, leaving Kakashi very confused. So did I accidentally do a really powerful body flicker or some powerful teleportation? But still, I was falling then. From what I know, body flicker doesn't cause pain. Maybe the old perv would know, Naruto thought, distressed, and I need to ask him why he pushed me off a cliff. Hey, have you seen an old guy with long white hair? And what day is it? Naruto asked a random person on the street. About the first part, I think I saw a guy like him heading toward the hot springs, and the second part, it's Wednesday. The person said to Naruto. Then Naruto said a quick thanks, then growled, and he marched toward the hot springs. Weird kid, he thought. Naruto asked a series of people the same questions and got the same answer. Well, not always where to find Jiraiya, but everyone agreed that it was Wednesday. So he decided the hot springs was a good place to start, so onward to the hot springs. XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD. Naruto walked into the hot springs, staying amazingly calm despite his confusing situation. He saw Jiraiya giggling, squatted looking through the cracks in the flimsy wall between the men's and women's bath. He's in the same position as he was when I was here on Wednesday. Hoping it was just a coincidence, he decided to ask Jiraiya the same question he's asked everyone. Hey pervy sage, what day is it? Naruto asked, expecting him to say the same as all the others. Jiraiya's giggle fits came to an end for a second as he thought, Wednesday? Who are you? Do you want my autograph or something? He asked flatly, a second before going back to his research. You're lying. It's Saturday and you know who I am, you idiot. Remember, my name's Naruto. Naruto said, getting edgy. Why was everyone acting like he was a moron? Come on, it's time to train, let's go. And don't push me off a cliff this time, okay? Naruto said, trying to catch the perv, off guard. But nothing ever goes his way, does it? Whoa, you have the wrong guy. I have no apprentice at the moment. And you don't look like someone who had just crawled out of a hole in the ground. Now get lost. Jiraiya said, waving his hand dismissively. What, you don't remember? I got you to be my sensei by doing this, Naruto said, followed by a few hand signs, and an excited and drooling Jiraiya. Then Naruto got his sensei back, even if it was the same way as before. So what's your name, kid? Jiraiya asked, still a little lightheaded from that kid's awesome juts. Naruto, remember I told you a while ago, I think showing you that jutsu kills a few brain cells at the same time. Naruto said, still not understanding why Jiraiya didn't remember him. Was those past days just an illusion? Was this really Wednesday? Ha! Meet me at the falls tomorrow, kid, at let's say 8 o'clock? Jiraiya asked, enjoying the kid's company. Sure, why not? So is it really Wednesday? Naruto asked, still wondering. Yes, and tomorrow will be Thursday like every week. Friday before Saturday, common sense. Jiraiya said sarcastically, and with a wave he was gone. He had to go research somewhere else. Naruto had attracted to many people when he was talking with him. Yeah, you see you tomorrow, bye. Naruto said, usually I'd be hungry for some ramen by now, but I'm too confused to be hungry. Naruto thought to himself and decided just head back to his apartment so he could go over the events of today. This was going to be a long night. XDX. Okay, let's go over this yet again. I built up my chakra for a summoning and I ended up here, but how? Naruto thought, lying in his bed looking at his ceiling. He went over what had happened over and over again, not getting anywhere before he dozed off for the night. Naruto got up the next morning with a new angle to come at Jiraiya with a new set of questions and hoping he could answer them. So he got dressed and put on his headband and ate a bowl of instant ramen just before taking off toward the falls. Today's a new day. Naruto thought, rushing off the street toward the forest, totally forgetting that it was today that Head gotten to know Hinata the day Head went to visit her. Hey pervy sage, why you here so early? Naruto asked, walking up to Jiraiya, who was hiding behind a bush. SHHH. They'll hear you. Jiraiya whispered loudly. Holding his finger up to his mouth and giving Naruto a glare, he mouthed, shut up. Come on, let's get to summoning already, Naruto said, still trying to jog Jiraiya's memory. Forgetting about the girls, Naruto instantly held his attention. What, you already know summoning? Have you signed a scroll of summoning already? Jiraiya asked, taken aback by the boy's statement. Well, I think so. I signed with the frogs, Naruto said flatly, giving Jiraiya a deadpan look. Really now, I don't believe you. I signed with the frogs. I'm the keeper of the scroll, Jiraiya said, even taken more aback. Had he really signed it? No, that's impossible, Jiraiya thought. Then he bit his thumb and summoned the frog with the scroll, had it uncurl its tongue and the scroll. When it was on the ground, Jiraiya unwrapped it. Jiraiya couldn't believe his eyes. Wah, Naruto said. My name is still there. Signed in blood. My blood, how could it be? Ha, see, I'm there. It's signed in my blood, Naruto said smugly, but was just as surprised himself. Naruto was surprised by this. How could my blood still be there? Dash. This is getting weirder by the minute. Ok. Naruto said, still freaked out by his name. How the hell does he have his name there? I never released the scroll to him. Could it be? Could he have his mother's abilities? They'll find out soon enough. Jiraiya was deep in thought, but he figured he would just continue as usual and then figure it out later. Okay, let's get started, Jiraiya said enthusiastically. Let's try it out. Naruto bit his thumb and pressed his hand into the soil. Puff, tadpole. Arg, Naruto exclaimed after yet another failure. It was the first in Jiraiya's mind, but the millionth in Naruto's. That's pretty much how their days went. Poof, tadpole, arg. That following week, Jiraiya took Naruto for ramen, or the other way around, and they got talking. Figuring that him and Jiraiya had gotten closer over the past week, he decided he would ask for the 7th time. Hey pervy sage? Naruto said between slurps of ramen. Yeah? Jiraiya responded back, busy eating his own bowl as well. I don't know what happened, but while I was falling off a cliff a week ago, I've talked about it. Naruto brought up the subject again. You what about it? Jiraiya said between slurps also. I'm between that I body flickered or that I time traveled somehow. Have you ever heard of that before? Naruto asked after long coming to this conclusion, after a painfully long pause, well, long enough for Naruto to eat 2 more bowls of ramen. Jiraiya responded, actually, I have heard of a special bloodline where it is possible to control time. It's so rare that most of people think it's a myth. There was a rumor, though, one person was said to have ever had that ability. She was from Suna, I think, but it's been so long I can't remember her name. Family Heirloom, Chap 3, Discovery. Disclaimer. Fanfiction is like Monopoly. You build up your proprieties, you make daring moves, make lots of money, but in the end you still own nothing. Slurp. The late afternoon sun frayed troughed the rooftops of the numerous apartments and shops of all kind. It was just another day in Konoha. Blue sky and mildly warm. Children running by, laughing and playing. The smell of beef broth swirled through the air, making people stop and smell. The source of the great smell came from a small stand. A white-haired old man in a red coat with traditional sandals, sitting in front of a second bowl of ramen. It was nothing compared to the child who sat beside him, with an ever-increasing number of empty bowls which had started to make a semicircle around him like his own defensive bowls. Naruto slurped down his 15th bowl of ramen while Jiraiya at his side finished his second. The two men sat and talked casually, as if talking about the weather. Suddenly Naruto went deep in thought as he was carefully selecting his words. After Naruto's realization about this rare bloodline, he decided he was going to explore further. It might just help him understand his little situation. So, do you know anything else about this rare bloodline? Naruto asked casually, trying to get anything out of him. No, I told you it's been so long. It's an I know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy situation, but it's a myth. You know how kids say, wouldn't it be awesome if I could control time? It was just a rumor. For all I know, it could be a joke. Jiraiya said, hoping to end this, mentally kicking himself and asking why he even said anything. Now Naruto was going to be at him 25/8 days a week. Inside joke of mine. Okay, but tell me if you remember anything, Naruto said, obviously not going to let this drop. He rose from his seat quickly before Jiraiya could ditch him and make him pay for the 15 or so bowls of miso ramen, and walked away thanking Jiraiya for a good meal. Naruto was lost in his thoughts as he walked home. Who could I ask? The perv doesn't know. I could ask the third, since he's the Hokage, he should know this has to be it, but Naruto thought to himself on his walk back, I'll go see the third in the morning. Now I have to get a good night's sleep. I have to clear my mind. I'll think about Hinata. Yeah, that'll calm me. As he thought back to that day when they talked, it struck him. I forgot to see her. I've been so focused on my business I forgot about her. I'll make it up to her. I'll go see her before I go see the third in the morning. Naruto stood in a quiet room, where he looked over an unconscious Hinata. She was so beautiful, so perfect. Looking at her face, he felt the anger at Neji for what he had done to his own family, the red chakra to start to circulate his feet, his canines starting to grow. He took it as a sign that he should leave soon before he killed Neji before the match. On the other hand, she looked as if she were in eternal peace, almost happy to be there, happy to be away from her family. I'm sorry, Hinata, Naruto whispered into her ear before he quietly kissed her on the cheek. And when she didn't flare up red like a rose, he knew she was out of it. With that, he left without making a noise. He slipped out the door without making so much as a pat of his foot on the floor. Naruto walked solemnly down the dirt road that led to the Hokage Tower, happy he could see Hinata this morning, running over what he'd asked the third, how he'd approached him without looking like an idiot. As he walked, he got numerous dirty looks, not that it was different from any other day, and just ignored them like any other day. Hey Gramps, Naruto said to the third Hokage, standing in the doorway of his huge office, peeking through the two huge wooden doors waving. Hello Naruto, what brings you here? The Hokage asked, happy Naruto had come. He always seems to make the mountains of paperwork not seem so bad. I had a question, Naruto said, trying to pick his words carefully, thinking about every word that left his lips, acting as if they were fragile glass that would break at any moment. Yes, what is it? Sarutobi said, thinking how it wasn't like him to think before he spoke. This must be something of great importance, Sarutobi thought. Have you ever heard of particular bloodline? Naruto said slowly, that could control time? He finally spat out, wishing he could have pulled them back as soon as they left his lips. There was a long pause as the Hokage took a puff from his pipe as he thought and questioned why Naruto would ask this. Is this some prank he's trying to play on me? All Naruto could hear was the faint chatter of children in the academy running around in the schoolyard. Well, at least he didn't laugh at me to start out with. I think he's at least considering the question, Naruto thought, thinking he could grow a beard before he would answer. Yes, I have heard of a few select cases where there was a certain bloodline that allows you to control time, but no one, not even me, has seen it in action. It has a certain failsafe that keeps it a secret because, if they go back in time, everybody forgets. For all I know, there could be dozens of people in this village with that bloodline. The Hokage carefully selected his words, trying not to give too much away. Truth was he knew much more about this bloodline, but it was a secret that's to be kept among the 5 Kages. What with it being a bloodline, he or any ninja village leader would love to have someone with that ability. They could literally mean the difference between a loss and a win in a war. They could take out any of the Kages with ease. Naruto considered his words carefully, taking each to heart, trying to piece words together for a response. Thank you. Tell me if you can remember any specific aspects to it, or really anything at all. As Naruto turned to leave the Hokage's office, the Hokage started chuckling. I don't ever recall you to ever think before you speak, or consider anything I've ever said. Why the sudden interest in this bloodline? The Hokage chuckled as he spoke. No reason, Naruto said. Anyways, thanks for the info, just give me an update if you remember. After I learn more, I'll tell you my reason. 'Cause if I told you now, you wouldn't believe me. With a wave, Naruto slipped out the 2 large doors and was gone. Well, there's no dull moment with Naruto, that's for sure, the Hokage thought as he took another puff from his pipe. The wind blew, ruffling Naruto's black and orange jacket as it flapped in the breeze. The late afternoon sun gleamed on his tan skin, the light reflecting off his pure blue eyes. His spikes of blonde hair shifted on top of his head, and he listened to the leaves ruffling in the calm wind as if they were talking in a low whisper. He stood with his arms apart over a seemingly bottomless cliff. I am so screwed if this goes wrong, the blonde thought as he looked off the side of the cliff, questioning his sanity. Not being able to see the bottom was a little disconcerting. Okay, if I'm right about this, I'll go back in time like before. I have to try and use as much chakra as possible. I haven't figured it out yet, but I think it has something to do with me thinking of where I want to be. He took another look down the bottomless pit, his nerves screaming for him not to jump. Naruto swayed, knowing he had to do this to know more. He'd done this once before. He could do it again, even if he had been pushed the first time. He decided he would think of this moment, him standing over the cliff, and he hoped he would live to see it again. An on-looking Jiraiya watched Naruto preparing mentally to jump off a cliff. He had asked Naruto to go train with him this morning, but he had not shown up. His plan was to take Naruto here today and fling him off to get his red chakra going so he could summon something bigger than a small frog, but Naruto seems to have beaten him to it. It was no use stopping him. All Naruto could hear was the wind whistling in his ears, almost deafening him as he fell at ever-increasing speeds, when he suddenly felt a painful surge of chakra swell up in his chest. He could feel his fingernails growing and his eyes became red with slits. His vision became sharper, noticing more detail about this pit. He could see water dripping off the cone-shaped walls like blood as the identical cones flashed by, almost too quick for his eyes to follow, and despite his improved vision, he still couldn't see the bottom. Good, this means I won't become a pancake on the ground before I can test my ability. He felt the energy crackle trough his bones. He looked at his hand in front of him as it lit up red, and he knew it was time. Naruto flashed trough the hand seals, trying not to waste time checking each one as he had them memorized. While he approached the last sign, he felt the chakra swell up in his hand as he yelled, "Summoning Jut Dash." He almost threw up when the unbearable pain he remembered from last time shot him in the gut and spread outward mercilessly. But he took it as a sign it had worked, well, at least until he blacked out. Jiraiya was watching Naruto's body fall with a pair of binoculars, seeing it light up red with all the physical changes noted. When Naruto started to flash through hand signs, he started wishing he had a bag of popcorn. He would feel bad for the boy if he summoned a tadpole again, because that would definitively not break his fall, but the boy started to flicker as if he was disappearing. What the hell? Jiraiya said out loud just as Naruto disappeared. What twisted jutsu is this? Is all Jiraiya could say as the world became nothing. Naruto was standing in a sewer with a few inches of water on the ground, with a torch providing the only light in the dark passageway. Naruto looked around wondering if he was dead. He examined the walls further, He saw they were blood-stained but not with fresh blood, but with old blood that looked like it had been there ages. There was for too much of it to have been from one person. It must have been from dozens of people. There were deep gashes on the walls that looked at least 6 inches deep, like whatever was drugged this way sure didn't make it easy. Naruto followed the blood trail out of curiosity. He turned numerous times, but with every step he could feel the killer intent getting stronger and the smell of burnt skin also growing as he took another step. When he turned the last corner, he saw 2 unbelievably huge golden gates, but instead of a giant deadbolt holding them together as one would expect, it had a small seal on it that, funny enough, said, "Seal." Before Naruto, 2 large eyes appeared before him, blood red with 1 slit in each, both focused on Naruto. "So, calling on my chakra a lot, aren't we?" the demon said in a booming voice, each word cutting down Naruto's bravery bit by bit. "What's wrong with me? Why are all these weird things happening to me?" Naruto asked in a little more than a squeak. "Foolish human, you would like to know, wouldn't you?" the Kyuubi said in the most frightening tone possible, with the killing intent rolling off of him in waves. "But I don't feel like helping my container, so you'll have to figure it out on your own. If it were me, I would have figured it out by now, but seeing as how you're such a moron, I'll give you a tip. If you had a bloodline, it wouldn't involve hand seals but a chakra flow, not that you will understand, you worthless piece of garbage. Now be gone." Family Heirloom Chap 4. Disclaimer: honestly, if I owned Naruto, would I be writing a fanfiction? No, I'd be making the manga like my story. So enjoy. Naruto was lying down in the warm afternoon sun, soaking up the heat as he was lost in his thoughts. Why did he have to say it like that? Why couldn't he just out and tell me what to do, seeing as he's such a know-it-all? Naruto slowly opened his eyes and looked around. "Wait, I'm on top of the mountain. I'm on top of the mountain," Naruto screamed mentally. Naruto jumped up and down on the edge of the cliff in pure joy. Thinking there was nobody around, he said enthusiastically, "I need to test this." But he wasn't alone. Jiraiya stepped out of the bush with a WTF look on his face. "I think you finally snapped," Jiraiya stated flatly. "No, it's I can't tell you," Naruto said, disappointed. He really wished he could tell him, but he knew that he couldn't. "I am sorry, Jiraiya. I wish I could tell you, but I can't." "What are you gonna test? How to lie down?" Jiraiya said in a mocking tone. "All you did was walk over there." He pointed toward the edge of the cliff. "And you turned around and laid down on the grass." Naruto was in shock. "He thinks I just came and laid down. That's so cool." This was his first major breakthrough on his supposed bloodline. XDX. Over the past 2 weeks, Naruto had been jumping of the cliff 8 times a day. To everyone else, it seemed like the same old routine. But to Naruto, every day was a new adventure with unlimited time. Every time he jumped off, he would always end up onto the rock face. He had found out 2 things in the past 2 weeks. He didn't need the Kyuubi chakra, and there was no need for hand signs. When he thought he needed hand signs, he would be sent back in time before he could do a summon. He had discovered this by him not thinking where he wanted to be, so he summoned Gamabunta instead of time skipping. After many attempts, Naruto figured that no hand signs equals a more precise time travel. Then Naruto tried using his bloodline without the Kyuubi chakra. This resulted in an even better result in timing. It was within a few seconds, but with the Kyuubi chakra he would end up a minute to a day off, but it was horribly draining depending on how far back he wanted to go. XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD. Naruto stood in the sewer within his subconscious. He had visited this place every day for the past 2 weeks to ask for chakra, so he could continue training without passing out from chakra depletion. "What do you want, brat?" the Kyuubi asked in a frightening tone which had ceased to scare Naruto as he had visited many times and was beginning to enjoy torturing the fox. "I want you to tell me everything you know about my bloodline," Naruto demanded. His answer was a resounding laughter which still kind of freaked out Naruto. "And why would I share my wealth of information?" the Kyuubi said in a questioning tone. "Don't flatter yourself. If you tell me, it'll show the world that you are still something to fear by seeing how powerful your Jinchuriki is," Naruto said. "And if you don't tell me, I'll find some way to cause you pain." I haven't figured it out yet, but when I do you'll be in for a world of hurt. He had thought this over and over for the last week. Time travel won't help me beat Niji, so maybe the Fart Fox has a couple ideas. Hey brat, I can hear your thoughts, right? Fart Fox. That's a new one. QB thought back into his mind as he was weighing the consequences of telling the boy about his bloodline. He only knew a few things, he only knew one thing, but it was a very, very good technique. Okay brat, I'll tell you, but it's not because I like you, it's because I had to get stuck in such a weakling and it wouldn't be beneficial for me to die early. Naruto almost started jumping up and down but managed to keep his composure. So are you gonna tell me, or what? Just as those words left his mouth he felt a tugging on his body, and he found himself somewhere else entirely. A white room which seemed to have no walls, no shadows, it just seemed to be. Before him he saw a mirror representation of himself doing a ram seal and focusing chakra all around his body. The image became unfocused and disappeared, and his head was flooded with information on how to do it explained by the voice of QB. First you have to make a ram seal and focus the chakra all through your body. Then you think of time slowing down. You can move as fast as you like, you can run, walk, jog, whatever. To an onlooker it seems like you're moving at the speed of light when, to you, you're just walking. If you ran you could get to Suna and back before someone could blink. It eats a considerable amount of energy, but having your stamina you could maintain it for maybe an hour before passing out from chakra depletion. With that, the explanation was over and he was sitting on the forest floor staring at the clouds once again. Okay, I have to try this, Naruto said to himself quietly. He noticed a leaf falling and decided to try this new aspect to his bloodline. Naruto quickly put his hands in a ram seal and focused chakra like he'd seen himself do, his sole thought to slow time. He closed his eyes in concentration and he felt it begin to work as the concentration was put on standby. He could feel the slightest drain, but it was blown away by what he saw. The leaf he saw falling was standing still and the grass was unmoving. The trees that had been swaying in the calm wind had stopped. It was beautiful, nothing moving at all. It was so peaceful. Naruto walked up to the leaf and touched it gingerly and pulled into his hand. As he walked around, he noticed a glint of light nearby. As he approached it, he noticed it to be a certain red-clad ninja whom he decided to play a prank on to test his abilities. So he casually stepped beside him and crouched low exactly the same as him. Ready to scare the crap out of him, he released the chakra concentration and waited. Jiraiya was hiding in a bush watching Naruto train, wondering what he did on his free time. He watched stupefied as Naruto made a ram seal, then Jiraiya blinked and he was gone before he could start making assumptions about a genjutsu or something. Someone started talking to him. "What's CA doing?" Naruto said in a flat tone. Jiraiya literally jumped out of his clothes as he jumped into the air, as he settled back into his spot behind the bushes, giving Naruto a disapproving glare. "What kind of crazy jutsu is that?" Jiraiya asked, totally mind-boggled. "Oh, nothing. I might have told you if you weren't spying on me, but instead I'll give you a hint. It'll be the key to my victory over Niji." Naruto wanted to tell someone. But who? Not Jiraiya. Not Sarutobi just yet. He just couldn't bottle up all this excitement. He had to tell someone. Hinata. He could trust Hinata. She wouldn't tell a soul if he told her not to. "Now I need to practice my new jutsu," Naruto said as he made the ram seal and went through the process of doing his new bloodline. Time slowed once again and he walked away again just to the edge of the clearing to see Jiraiya's reaction, who he heard a few curses from, followed by some grumblings about blinking. XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD. The next day Naruto woke up as happy as he had been in a long time. When he finished taking a shower he realized he didn't go back in time yesterday and he was exactly 1 week into his training in real time, but for him it had been for 1 month. He decided to put the time travel on hold for a while and let time progress on its own. Naruto quickly left for the training ground he had been using for the past weeks. But on his way there he decided to have a little fun with the fastest ninja in Konoha. XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD. Naruto stood not 3 meters away from the famous Might Guy. "I challenge you to a race, Guy, from one end of Konoha and back," Naruto exclaimed. "Oh, Naruto. Your youthfulness is quite inspiring. I accept. You lucky. I just finished an intense battle with Kakashi, Guy said equally as loud, giving Naruto a nice guy pose. OH and Guy, you might want to take off your weights, Naruto said, attempting to give Guy somewhat of an upper hand. As tempting as that sounds, I cannot. So what are the rules of this race? Guy questioned. First we will have Kakashi take these 2 flags, Naruto said while pulling out 2 checkered flags, and take them to the other side of Konoha. The rules are simple. You must take a flag from him, run back and stick it in the ground where you started. Why do I have to be the one to do this? Kakashi said, grabbing the 2 flags and running toward the other side of Konoha. You realize challenging Guy to a foot race is useless. Fate tells me you will lose, Neji said in a matter-of-fact tone. Wow, fate talks to you too. That's weird, it told me I'm gonna win, Naruto said with a shocked look on his face. Neji held his head high and walked away. Shall we, Guy? Naruto asked, ready to blow Neji's panties off. Okay, let's go. Good luck, Naruto, Guy said, giving Naruto a smile which made the sun reflect into Naruto's eyes, momentarily blinding him. Now on 3, 1, 2, 3, go. Naruto was momentarily pushed off his feet as Guy rushed by. Naruto watched as he disappeared out of sight and without the ram seal focused chakra throughout his body, and imagined time slowing. When he opened his eyes, he could see the leaves standing still and Neji looking at him with his bloodline activated. You're not the only one with a bloodline, Neji. Naruto casually walked over to Neji and pulled his pants down before running toward where Lee had bolted. As Naruto approached Guy, he patted him on the back. He was moving very, very slowly, but just enough to see that he was moving. Naruto bounded past Lee and grabbed a flag from Guy. Naruto ran back and pushed his sign into the ground and laid down beside it before releasing the chakra. As Neji looked around, he noticed that Naruto had disappeared. He couldn't even feel a chakra signature. As his senses caught up with him, he felt a cool breeze in his lower regions and looked around to see a blushing Tenten. When he looked down, he saw his pants around his ankles. Blushing himself, he quickly pulled his pants up, wondering who had done it. He hadn't even felt them go down, and nobody could have ever gotten close enough to do this. Not even Lee. As Neji looked around, he saw a lazy-looking Naruto not 20 meters away, watching the clouds with a flag put firmly in the ground beside him. No, he must have cheated somehow. He couldn't have beaten Guy, he's the best, the fastest. So what's fate telling you now, huh? Naruto questioned in a flat tone as he watched the clouds. Neji's response was a few spits and sputters about how he'd cheated and that fate was never wrong. After another minute, Guy showed up looking totally winded. That was an incredible race, Naruto. It seems the fires of youth burn brighter in you than me. But however did you beat me? I did not even see you pass me, Guy said between deep breaths. Yes, I would have to ask the same question. I didn't even feel you take the flag. It was there one moment and the next it wasn't, Kakashi added coolly. Naruto must have gotten quite a trainer for himself. You'll have to see during the finals. Neji will understand firsthand what the depth of what I just did means, Naruto said before closing his eyes and slowing time. Naruto got up and walked over to Neji once more and pulled his pants down before walking away. Family Heirloom Chap 5. Disclaimer: I'm working on owning Naruto, but until then, I own nothing. Soon guys, soon. Naruto woke up the next morning dazed. He had used a lot of chakra yesterday, he had played a lot with his bloodline, he had had the time of his life and he planned to do the same today. He also intended to visit Hinata as he hadn't in the past few days or weeks in his time. Naruto walked around the village, think about his next prank. Hey, I know, I'll challenge Kiba to a rematch to see if this new power it'll help my fighting style. But first I'll go see if Jiraiya wants to watch me dominate for real this time, Naruto said, planning what he'll do and how he'll approach him, pushing his fingers together, manically picturing how he'll win. XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD. Hey Jiraiya, how's the peeping going? Naruto half said, half screamed into a low-crouched Jiraiya's ear. He was crouched with a notepad and a pencil, writing furiously, almost making smoke. He was peeping through the flimsy bamboo fence that separates the two bathhouses trough a small and almost unnoticeable hole. After Naruto's arrival and usual statement that was loud enough for all the people on the other side of the fence to hear, needless to say all the women left. "How did you know I'd be here?" Jiraiya questioned. The blonde teen had an uncanny ability to be able to know where he always was, and it was a big village. "Let's just say a little frog told me," Naruto said in a jokingly, not realizing how stupid he sounded. Jiraiya's sweat dropped.
Ah, abei fun.
Jiraiya said in a sarcastic manner, turning back to his research to see a deserted hot spring. Cursing mentally, Jiraiya turned back to his pupil. "I wanted to let you know I'm going to challenge Kiba to a rematch. I was here to ask if you wanted to watch when I beat him again," Naruto said. "What the heck? Sure, you already scared all the girls away anyways. But I haven't taught you squat other than summoning. What are you gonna do, fart in his face again?" Jiraiya teased. "Nah, I won't need that. What's to say that I haven't been training on my own?" Naruto asked. Oh, he was gonna take it easy on Kiba. Then again, if he loses, he could always go back in time to before the fight and do it again and again and again. "Okay. Whatever, let's go before you make a scene," Jiraiya said, ushering Naruto out the door. Naruto quickly complied and ran ahead of Jiraiya. As they walked down the dirt road, Jiraiya received bows from people who, after bowing, spit in Naruto's direction. Naruto brushed these off like a daily occurrence, and Jiraiya couldn't help but ask himself if Naruto had really had such a bad childhood that the boy expected to be treated like trash. The nerve of these people, treating Naruto like he was the devil incarnate. Wait, no, even he would get more respect than Naruto. His response to the disrespect toward Naruto was a wave of killing intent which sent most villagers to their knees. Was his life really that bad? I was supposed to be his godfather. Was it really a good choice to leave him alone to grow up? Maybe if I would have been there, he would have had a half-normal life. Jiraiya thought to himself, pitying the boy and half-blaming himself for all the wrongs done to Naruto in his life thus far. Naruto and Jiraiya saw the Inuzuka compound becoming visible over the horizon. They soon arrived at Kiba's clan compound, where he asked the front gate guard to go get Kiba for him. The guard complied and returned with Kiba, who looked surprised to see Naruto. "Hey Naruto, I was just gonna go out and challenge you to a rematch," Kiba said confidently as he approached the blonde ninja. "Sure you were. Anyway, that is precisely why I'm here, to challenge you to a rematch. You up for it?" Naruto questioned in a formal manner. "Hell yeah. You won last time on a fluke. Now I'll show you how strong I really am. Right, Akamaru?" Akamaru barked in agreement. "Shall we go to a favorite training spot of mine?" Naruto asked while giving Kiba a coaxing hand motion while disappearing into the blinding afternoon sun. Naruto and Kiba stood parallel, both ready to grab some kuni from their pouch if necessary, like two cowboys in an old Western movie. "Aren't you gonna make some kage bunshins or something?" Kiba asked. When he wanted a fight, he expected to have Naruto rush him, but he seemed more prepared. "Nah, I won't even need those to beat you. I'll just need one jutsu," Naruto said confidently, pointing at Kiba. "Oh, this is gonna be so good and fun. Actually, I'm gonna see if my shadow clones can slow time too, but later." "You're right, you barely beat me with M last time. You couldn't have learned such a powerful jutsu in just a week," Kiba retorted. He and Akamaru had a few new clan techniques up their sleeves. "He'll never beat me again." "We'll see. Sands of time, sands slow," Naruto yelled, while the world around him became still. "Oh yeah, I came up with a kick-ass name. I don't think I'll beat him right away, I'll just play with him a bit." Before Kiba, Naruto became a flash of yellow and orange. Not a second later, Kiba found himself hanging by his ankle on a tree. Naruto became visible not 50 feet away with a smug look on his face. "I thought you said you were gonna win, genius," Naruto said in a mooching tone. "You just got lucky," Kiba screamed back. An on-looking Jiraiya was in the process of picking his jaw off the ground. "Yes, I didn't blink this time, but why was that the Hiraishin? When did he learn that? Couldn't be, but what if, what if?" A foaming at the mouth Jiraiya thought to himself, "He will truly be the best student ever. Jiraiya sat back on his heels and thanked Kami for giving him the second generation of the Namikazes. He rested up against a tree behind him and decided to enjoy the show, wishing he had some popcorn. Kiba quickly cut himself down and fed Akamaru a food pill. Now it's on! Kiba yelled as Akamaru got on top of him in the form of Kiba, but more animalistic, both with elongated fingernails and canines looking somewhat more scary. Kiba and Akamaru started to spin, both aimed for Naruto. Okay, have it your way. If you don't want to give up, fine by me. Sands of time, sands slow. Naruto said, time slowing to an almost stop before his eyes. This still kinda creeps me out, but it's so cool. Naruto leisurely walked over to Kiba, who was in mid-spin. He was moving ever so slightly. Naruto redirected Kiba to aim toward Akamaru and vice versa. He then calmly walked away, stopping where he had originally started. When Naruto released the time slow, he watched with satisfaction as Kiba and Akamaru collided. Akamaru turned back to his dog form after passing out from the collision. Akamaru! Kiba screamed, running to his partner's aid. Kiba easily awakened Akamaru. He noticed that he was limping. He had a slight concussion himself. Both had various cuts and scrapes. Jiraiya basically had a river of drool coming out of his mouth. No, it's not the Hiraishin, it's better. Oh, the possibilities. The Hiraishin was a teleportation and was able to kill quick, but Naruto is able to intercept and change the attack completely without anyone seeing more than a glint of yellow. I have to know what this is. Jiraiya was giggling like a schoolgirl at the possibilities of this jutsu, which Naruto called the sands of time thing. K-man, I give, you're just too good, but I will beat you someday. It's not that I'm being a coward. It's not like me, but that's all I had, and now I have to bring Akamaru by my sis to get him looked at. But what was that you were doing? It was like a flash of yellow and orange, then before I could blink I was tied to a tree. I didn't even feel you touch me. Wait, are you some taijutsu master like Lee? I want to know, how the hell did you aim me and Akamaru at each other? As far as I know, nobody has ever touched the vortex and lived to see their arm another day. Kiba was totally confused. The last time he had heard of someone moving that fast was the 4th, but he didn't even think he was this fast. It was as if he had stopped time and moved within that state. Naruto was listening to the bombardment of questions. In Kiba's weird way, he was praising him in between the cursing. Oh, he loved praise. He couldn't wait to see the smug look on the arrogant Hyuga's face disappear and reappear on Naruto's when he won. Oh, the sweet satisfaction it would bring. Jiraiya tripped while getting up from his resting spot and rolled over to Naruto with a twinkle in his eye. He laid face up at his student's feet, looking at his protege with a newfound respect. What was that? Jiraiya asked simply in a dreamy tone. Oh, just something I've been working on for a while. I just recently figured out this aspect of it, Naruto said, trying to contain his laughter as he stared down to his sensei. Oh, he was gonna love to show this off. He was gonna make those old farts we call council members piss themselves. Naruto had decided it was time to show Sarutobi and Hinata. Sarutobi because he needed help on the history of his bloodline, and he figured that the professor might know a few things. And Hinata, well, because it's Hinata. After Jiraiya picked himself up, he walked away with a far-off look on his face. Kiba sulked off carrying his dog and mumbling about more training, which left Naruto to head toward the Hokage office. Naruto decided to run there, but not in the old-fashioned way, the time travel way. Naruto bolted through the village, heading to the Hokage's office at the speed of light. Naruto approached the Chunin guarding the doors and simply pushed them open. He walked down the hallways lit with warm afternoon sun, gazing at the people frozen in time. He did simple pranks like facing people who were running down the hall with armloads of paper at the wall, causing them to smash into it later on, and piling a tall mound of people in the middle of the room, and other fun stuff like that. Naruto soon entered the Hokage's office and sat down behind the old man, who looked as if he was just pacing about his room. Naruto promptly sat down and took on a bored expression, releasing sand slow. Time caught up with the village, of which some thought they saw a glint of yellow cross their vision, but quickly marked it as their eyes playing tricks on them. Several crashes were heard about this building, however. Naruto smiled on the inside with grim satisfaction. The Hokage saw a small sliver of yellow and orange cross his vision, but instead of marking it off, he looked around to see a bored-looking Naruto. Sarutobi's pipe almost fell out of his mouth. When did the kid get so fast? That was even faster than the 4th Hiraishin. At least then I could make out a small idea of where he was, but this is interesting. Hello, Naruto, what brings you here? The Hokage said, not showing his surprise. At that speed, he could easily take out anyone in the world. Nobody would be able to react in time to do anything. My bloodline, Naruto said in a flat tone. He had expected praise from the old man, but he was full of surprises, I guess. You're what? Sarutobi said in obvious disbelief. Naruto sure knew not to ever let things get dull with his job. My bloodline, Naruto repeated. Okay, so what is this supposed bloodline? The third asked. I can't exactly show you one part, but I can show you the one I know you're trying to still figure out, Naruto said in a monotone voice. Ah yes. What proof can you give me you have this bloodline? Sarutobi questioned. How about if I can take that cap of yours off, you give me a fair chance at evaluating my bloodline. Oh, an old man. Naruto said, oh, this is going to be too easy. Yes, Naruto? Sarutobi answered. Don't hold back. With that, Naruto waited for the old man to get ready. Oh, don't worry, you won't touch the hat. Nobody has ever come close, Sarutobi said, getting into his fighting stance. We'll see. Naruto muttered the time slow under his breath, watching almost instantly as time slowed. Naruto casually walked up to Sarutobi, grabbed his hat with little difficulty, put it on, and sat back down. That was very anticlimactic, Naruto thought sarcastically as he let time slow go. Before Sarutobi could react, he saw as a yellow glint came once again, then disappeared. He felt a breeze paw over his head. Sarutobi looked around the room to find a blond boy pretending to be asleep with the Hokage's hat on his head. Sarutobi sat there dumbfounded, his mind working a mile a minute trying to figure this out. He decided to give the boy a chance. Naruto, it seems you have given yourself a chance for a proper evaluation, seeing as how you took my hat, Sarutobi said. Really? Naruto instantly perked up, instantly breaking him from his stoic behavior. Naruto and Sarutobi sat in two different chairs facing each other. The two had tea in their hands. So tell me, Naruto, can you do anything other than slow time? Sarutobi asked the blond boy sitting across from him. They had been talking for a while now about Naruto's ability. He had told him all about the time slow. By now, Sarutobi was thinking about how he would get to show off his new clan to the other villages, and also the bad news is how it will sit over with the council. He already knew Danzo would say to put him en route. He said that about everyone who had the least bit of talent, but what worried him was the others, how he knew they would try to deny Naruto anything they had control over. I can go back in time, Naruto said, satisfied when the third's pipe fell out. Really? Sarutobi said, trying to compose his properness. The 5 Kages had had a meeting about this a long time ago, about if they had anyone who could control time in any way, was to arrange a meeting for all the Kages to discuss what to do with this individual. And now he could see why it was such an amazing power. Naruto could make the best assassin ever. He could be the best ninja ever. Everyone had laughed at the prospect of anyone to be able to do something like that. Even he had not believed it. Until now. Well, that would be impossible to test, I think. But if you say so, the third said slowly. Well, I don't know anything else other than these two techniques. I was wondering if you knew anything more about it than me? Naruto asked in a bored but interested tone. I'm sorry, Naruto, but you seem to know more than I. But if you'd like, I could get you registered as a clan head? Sarutobi said, wondering about the magnitude of the uproar about Naruto having anything special about him. Nah, not now, but after the finals. I want to flaunt my power a bit to humble those council members, Naruto responded. Sarutobi relaxed slightly. If he plays his cards right, he would make the council so much easier to talk to about his clan head instatement. Sarutobi thought while lighting his pipe again. The third was not someone to flaunt his cards, but something about this power made it almost unbearable not to. His bloodline was able to beat any and all bloodlines out of the water. Life can be such a bugger sometimes. While Sarutobi was lighting his pipe, Naruto was heading toward the door. Giving a quick wave, he slowed time mid-step out the door, acting as if he never concentrated at all. He sped out the solid wood front doors of the Hokage's tower. After leaving the Hokage's tower, he went straight to the hospital to visit a certain someone. Naruto released the time slow to ask to see Hinata instead of barging in. After receiving permission from the secretary, he went straight to Hinata's room. Naruto opened the door to see Hinata reading. Good book? Naruto questioned. Why yes it is. Surprised to see you and Naruto. Hinata stuttered out, quickly putting her book away. So how's it been going since I last visited? It feels like forever, Naruto said, trying to make small talk. He had a queasy feeling in his gut, hoping he wouldn't slip up and say something stupid. Gee, good I guess. Hinata answered. Good. Hey, you're coming to see my match with Neji, right? Naruto asked, trying to get this conversation going, the queasy feeling getting worse. He was thinking of how to get rid of it, as it was quite unsettling. Many things crossed his mind. Stabbing himself in the stomach? No, and ow. Going to the bathroom, maybe. Kissing Hinata? Okay, where did that come from? Well, it's the least painful, I guess. I might as well, but only on the cheek. Oh, of course. Hinata stated quietly, bringing Naruto out of his stupor at the right time for her. She didn't know it, but she had awakened him at precisely the right time. Awesome. Well, I best be going. Good night, Hinata. Naruto said, licking him lips nervously. Before he turned to leave, he bent in to give her a peck good night, at which point Hinata turned to bid him good night as well. As much to Naruto's surprise and to Hinata's delight, their lips met. Naruto savoring the contact, his thoughts lost in the soft touch of Hinata's lips. After what felt like forever, they parted. Neither knew why the other didn't simply jump away immediately. Neither seemed to care. Naruto promptly gave Hinata a wry smile, but before he could start stuttering out apologies, Hinata was already passed out, away in her dream world where her and Naruto were together. Naruto quickly left out the window, looking at Hinata with a smile on her face, with the setting sunlight reflecting off her flawless skin. He had really enjoyed today. Especially the last part. He had just come to the realization that the queasy feeling was long gone, replaced by sheer joy. Naruto sat in his bed, thinking over the events of the past few days. So much had changed, for good and for bad. He had a lot to think over, a lot to consider. Yes, his new power was awesome, but there had to be a catch. There just had to. The QB had said that he could only use the time slow for 60 minutes, but in whose time? His or real time? He wasn't eager to find out either, and what his feelings for Hinata. It was too late to try and answer these questions. Now was time for sleep, eager to see what tomorrow will hold. Family Heirloom Chap 6 Acceptance. Disclaimer. To put it plain and simple. Nothing. /n it will be explained, but I skipped 3 weeks real time, but like 2 months Naruto time to go straight to Neji's fight. Okay. The first fight, Neji Hyuga versus Naruto Uzumaki. Gunma exclaimed at the top of his lungs, getting the attention of everyone, despite most being here to see the fight between Sasuke and Gaara. XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD. There were bets galore going on in the stands. Everyone except a select few voted for Neji, knowing he was going to win anyways. To most it was a one-sided battle. How could the village pariah beat the Hyuga genius? Jiraiya and Irika were betting heavily for Naruto, getting odd looks from the other gamblers who were questioning if Jiraiya and Irika knew something they didn't. But they shrugged it off, seeing it as their gain. Meanwhile, down on the arena floor, this was the moment Naruto had been waiting for. He had trained for 2 months and had picked up a lot from the old perv. He didn't intend to just slow time and punch Neji and win. He intended to make him realize his worthlessness. He had a complete battle plan laid out, and it all started with Neji talking about fate. Naruto was pulled from his thoughts by Gunma saying loudly, "Start!" As soon as it had begun, Neji commenced talking, as Naruto thought he would. "You should forfeit. Fate tells me you will lose like Lady Hinata did." Neji said, boring holes in Naruto with his eyes. He expected to see fear, to see anger boil within him, but what he saw confused him. Naruto's laughter bellowed through the stadium for a few moments before coming too soft for people to hear. Many thought he had lost his mind, or simply was trying to hide his fear. They would be wrong. Naruto's expression went from playful to murderous, killing intent rolling off of him in waves. With all the hate, all the coldness he could muster, he pointed at Neji and said, "Tell me, Neji, how do you know the fate of people?" Naruto questioned in a bitter tone. "Well, you're the dead last. You have no chance of beating a genius like myself. Lady Hinata shared your fate, and look how she ended up." Neji stated clearly, arrogance rolling off of him. Again he expected to see Naruto get angry, but he just stared blankly, before disappearing. Naruto subconsciously slowed time to a max. He slowly walked up to Neji, pulled down his pants just to embarrass him a little. Then he took out a kuni and put to Neji's throat and releasing his grip on time. There was complete silence throughout the crowd. For the first time today someone could have heard a senbon drop. Naruto had seemed to be able to just materialize behind Neji, whom of which had his pants around his ankles. Neji was surprised to see Naruto just disappear. He started to look around aimlessly trying to find Naruto, questioning the method he had used to disappear. First he thought genjutsu but wrote that off as Naruto wasn't smart enough or well-trained enough to use those. Before he could continue his train of thought, he heard a whisper in his ear. "Don't underestimate your enemy and let them get behind you, or they will kill you," Naruto said softly in Neji's ear, a little bit of malice hidden behind the words. Up in the stands, the people were in an uproar trying to change their bets, except a select few who sat down with smug looks on their faces. "Hey guys, how did Naruto move so fast?" Sakura asked the group in front of her, hoping to get an answer. "Is this really Naruto?" she asked herself. I don't know," was the general answer among them, too much in shock to say anything else. The Kazekage/Orochimaru was cooking up a plan in the back of his mind, still determining the worthfulness of this Naruto brat. He had fought him in the forest of death. He couldn't move so fast then. Back on the arena floor, Naruto slowed time again as Neji was turning around. At normal speed he was moving quite fast, but to Naruto Neji was moving slower than he could see. Smirking, Naruto walked back to the place where he had started and released his grip on time. "Ready to fight, or do you want to give me another lecture?" Naruto asked coolly. At that instant Neji charged, but tripped when he realized his pants were around his ankles, with his heart underwear there for all to see. Many cackles were heard about the crowd. That didn't help Neji's mood. "You are within my range. 64 palms trigram," Neji screamed. After pulling up his pants, he let his rage get the better of him. Not thinking about the significance of Naruto being able to pull down his pants without even him knowing. Naruto slowed time slightly, something he had learned to do in the past weeks, using different amounts of chakra to control how slow time became. An example of this is if he pushed a lot of chakra into it, he would basically stop time, and if he pumped just a little, he would slow time a little. Naruto watched as Neji's chakra-saturated hands neared at a slow pace. Naruto raised his hand and focused chakra into his index and ring finger, and lightly pushed his hand away, doing the same with the other hand coming at him. Naruto heard Neji say slowly, 2 palms, 4 palms, 8 palms. Naruto's and Neji's hand were blurs, 16 palms, 32 palms, 64 palms. After a painfully long wait, it was over. Naruto had avoided each and every hit, much to everyone's surprise, mostly Hayashi. He was, for the first time in his life, speechless, not being able to come up with words to describe his amazement. Nobody has ever avoided all 64 palms. No one. Maybe I have thought wrong of Naruto. Neji thought as Naruto, still standing clammily where he had started, was smirking. "Neji, I'm giving you one chance to forfeit," Naruto said. "Never. I will not lose to someone as low as you. My pride will not allow it," Neji said, getting into his fighting stance. "Okay, your loss. I was gonna play with you a little, but I think I'll finish this quick. Don't worry, I'll still make sure it'll still hurt a lot," Naruto said. Before Neji could say anything more, Naruto held his hand up, looking toward Neji with nothing but hate in his eyes. "Wind spear," Naruto screamed for dramatic purposes, as he created a spear made out of wind, his hand gripping it as if it were real. Naruto threw it as hard as he could. It barreled toward Neji at incredible speeds. The only thing Neji could think to do was the kekkei, his ultimate defense. He started spinning wildly, creating a blue shield around him. Many people in the audience watched in awe, not only at Neji's technique but how just before Naruto's wind spear hit Neji, it exploded into a wave of wind knives. Any who hit Neji's kekkei exploded on contact, but the ones that missed created small craters and deep gashes in the wall behind Neji. Inside, Neji was happy he had learned kekkei, or he would have just been a smear on the wall.
Flashback no jutsu.
Jiraiya was surprised to say the least. He had just a week ago shown his student the wind spear. It was a wind affinity jutsu that allowed you to throw a spear made of chakra. It was effective if it hit home. As he had shown Naruto, it could easily cut right through a tree, but it rarely did hit right on as it was easy to avoid. That was why it was only a C-class jutsu. But in a week's time he had gotten rid of the variable of avoiding it by making it explode into hundreds of wind knives that either exploded or did serious cutting damage. He could tell this by the damage dealt on the training ground, but how did he do it? They had worked on Naruto's wind affinity for another week before Jiraiya had shown Naruto wind spear. Jiraiya had expected this to just be something for Naruto to work on in his free time, but Naruto was full of surprises. In a week Naruto could split a waterfall with wind chakra all by himself. He had mastered his affinity to a degree as if he had been working on it for a month at least, so Jiraiya figured he would show Naruto a few useful techniques. Naruto was drained laying in the middle of the field, bloody and cut repeatedly. He had created a new jutsu in 1.5 months. He had not only expanded on the wind spear, he had created another jutsu, one just as powerful as the wind spear. He had had to go back in time countless times to get this finished, but it was over. He had completed his goal. Flashback, no jutsu over. Naruto released his hold on time and watched as Niji's spin came to an end. Naruto was surprised that he had used something like that. He had expected to win with just that. Jiraiya even couldn't avoid it without using his special spine hair thing jutsu. I guess I'm gonna have to use that jutsu, Naruto thought as he started walking toward Niji, stopping time and walking behind him, then letting it go. Then he proceeded to repeatedly throwing wind knives at him, trying to get him distracted so he could use that jutsu. Niji wasn't having fun at all. Naruto kept on disappearing and reappearing somewhere else, throwing wind knives at him. For the 10th time Naruto appeared, this time with a smirk on his face. He cocked his arm back. All Niji could see was a shimmer of an outline of a giant mallet, at least 20 times bigger than Naruto, for a split second before having to go defensive. Niji started to spin again. At the same time Naruto swung his arm, colliding with Niji's kaiten. The two jutsus fought for dominance over on another. After a few minuets Niji couldn't hold his kaiten any longer. He was drained. Finally Niji started to slow down and Naruto's mallet slammed into him, causing him to fly toward the wall at amazing speeds. When Niji hit the wall there was a sickening snap heard. He slumped over nearly unconscious, a huge crack in the cement wall where he had hit. Niji had several broken bones. How had Naruto beaten him? He was the dead last. He had beaten the genius, but how? Fate had told him Naruto was to lose. There was complete silence in the stadium for the second time today, except for a few whispers. Jiraiya beamed at his student as well as Irika. Many of Naruto's friends were slack-jawed at what happened during that month. Was the basic question amongst the crowd. All that was heard was a shuffling of feet as Naruto walked toward Niji. The barely conscious form of Niji saw Naruto walking toward him, the waves of heat distorting his figure. See Niji, fate does not control us, it doesn't run the world. You can run your own life unless you let fate control it. You might have thought fate made your father die, that it was his fate to die. It just happened. Stuff happens because it does not because it has to. Ha, I might be the dead last, but I'm still gonna be the Hokage someday. Naruto said, putting his hands behind his head, a weak smile crossing his face. The last thought to cross Niji's mind before allowing darkness to consume him was, "Thank you, Naruto." After Niji had been taken away the crowd broke into cheers. Naruto smiled and waved, putting on a toothy grin, and waved to some people in the crowd he knew. After he had finished taking in the praise, Genma announced Naruto the winner. Naruto didn't know but Orochimaru had taken a bad interest in him. Also, most of the council members were coming up with excuses as to why Naruto was able to beat Niji, very bad excuses at that. The next fights were very boring compared to Naruto's and Niji's fight. Naruto hadn't taken interest in watching. Instead, he decided to take a trip to his subconscious. Yay! Naruto was once again in the sewers of his mind, standing in front of the two golden gates that held back the most dangerous being in the ninja world. What's the catch? Naruto asked bravely. What do you mean, brat? Kyubi answered in a hostile tone. There always has to be a catch. There's no way I can slow time with no consequences. It can't be that simple. Naruto continued, ignoring the Kyubi's hostile tone. Ah, you're smarter than I thought. It'll give you that. What's the catch, you ask? Well, that's simple. What do you think you do when you slow time? QB asked. Well, I slow time and make it easier for me to move around. Naruto answered back. Why would the QB ask that? Do people age when you stop or slow time? The demon continued.
No.
Naruto said slowly. Correct, do you age when time slows? QB pressed on. If he has a brain, he'll figure it out in a minute. No, if no one else ages, then I don't either, Naruto said confidently, shifting from foot to foot. Can everyone else slow time as well? QB said, getting annoyed.
No.
Well then, do you still age? I don't know. Why is it always riddles with you? Naruto said, getting annoyed as well. Let me put this simply enough for you small brain to comprehend. You still age. If you use your bloodline too much, you end up being much older than your comrades. Now be gone, QB said in a booming voice. Wait, no, I have more questions, Naruto screamed while being pushed out of his subconscious. Naruto seemed to stir in his sleep, slowly wakening. His eyes fluttered open to see everyone around him pressed up against the railings, almost falling off. The position of the sun had changed. It looked like it was late afternoon by now. Slowly getting up, his legs creaked and groaned as he stretched like a cat. Stumbling over to the railing, he saw his teammate, Sasuke, with his arm plunged deep into a dome of sand. Numerous spikes shot out, almost making Sasuke Swiss cheese. An ear-splitting screech was heard, instantly waking Naruto from his drowsy state. Wiping tears from his eyes, Naruto watched as a huge demonic arm shot out towards Sasuke, almost crushing him. He leaped away, instantly narrowly avoiding another swing of the arm. Before another attack could be sent towards Sasuke, Naruto and all the other ninja present felt a genjutsu being cast on the area. A chorus of kekkei was heard throughout the stadium. As if someone had pulled a trigger, all hell broke loose. There were kuni flying, jutsu being cast, sending dragons and tidal waves everywhere. It was easy to see Konoha had been betrayed by sand and sound. In a panic, Naruto slowed time and made 200 shadow clones and gave them the command to kill any sand and sound ninjas. They had 10 minutes to do so as he didn't want to lose too much chakra. He personally approached Gaara and his team and built a protection wall around them that he had been shown to him by Jiraiya. As he didn't want to kill anyone he knew, he left a note with them explaining the situation. And besides, he knew that Gaara was a fellow Jinchuriki and did not wish to get close enough to him to see what effects his bloodline had on him.
Flashback no jutsu.
Naruto was almost out of chakra. He had 5 minutes to take down 3 targets, all in different parts of Konoha that Jiraiya had set up as a test for him to see the extent of his resourcefulness. He couldn't do it in 5 minutes. Maybe he could try doing 2 shadow clones and sending each to different parts of town. Just maybe it could work. Naruto made the hand seal for shadow clones. Before he could second-guess himself, 2 puffs of smoke appeared. When the smoke cleared, 2 Naruto stood before the original. Naruto pumped his fist in victory before speeding toward his target. So I can do jutsu while time is slowed, eh? Flashback, no jutsu over. All the clones sped off in different directions, killing with little effort. The real Naruto took off to see if the old man was in trouble. When he arrived at the frozen form of the 3rd Hokage, he realized trouble was an understatement. The old man had, as if of some miracle, gotten himself stuck on the roof parallel to the Kage box of the arena. The Kazekage was across from the old man, but something told Naruto that wasn't the Kazekage. In the end, it didn't matter who it was. He had to save the old man, and that was that. On the roof there were, for people all sporting sound headbands in each corner of the building, it looked like they were doing some kind of jutsu. A purple field was extending from both sides of each member. After a minute of thinking, he determined it was a barrier made to keep the 2 men in and the rest out, as to not aid the Hokage. Naruto calmly walked to the first of the 4. It was a big guy. Knowing what he had to do, he pulled out a kuni and said a small prayer before slicing the man's throat. Noticing that no blood came out, a thin line appeared on his skin, but that's all. Naruto walked to the next guy who had 6 arms and was in the middle of doing hand signs with each pair. Naruto once again said a small prayer before lodging his kuni into the back of his neck, killing him instantly. Naruto then walked over to the guy with 2 heads. Why does this guy have so many freaks as his bodyguards? Naruto asked himself as he walked up to the deformed man. He then proceeded to slit his throat like the first man after saying a prayer like before. Naruto then went to that last of the four, a girl not deformed in any way, but an accomplice to trying to kill Sarutobi nonetheless. Naruto said a much longer prayer for her than the rest, then killed her by slitting her throat and stabbing her at the base of the skull, making sure for it to be as painless as possible. A feeling of regret still there, Naruto walked over and stood beside the old man destroying all his clones. He saw that they had stopped the invasion coming at the north walls and had found in a clearing in the forest that had many people in the middle of summoning two what looked like snakes. His clones had quickly and skillfully killed all the summoners and all the attackers within the walls of Konoha, and 3/4 of the invading force outside the walls. Well, at least my village is safe, Naruto thought as he was forced to release his time slow because if he held it any longer he would likely pass out from chakra exhaustion. Finding no need to slow time any longer, he let time return to normal. As soon as that happened, for the second time today, all hell broke loose. Much to Naruto's guilt, geysers of blood erupted from the Sound Four's throats and other parts of their bodies, each falling in a lifeless heap on the rooftop. The barrier dissipated instantly, all his clones poofing away as well, returning all their memories, further adding to his guilt. To say the least, all watching were shocked how had this boy of 12 to 13 defeated the most feared ex-Konoha ninja's personal bodyguards. Yeah, he looked as tired as hell, but he had done it. He had completely ruined Orochimaru's plans. He had done more than anybody could have imagined. He had single-handedly stopped an invasion, which could have been the demise of the mighty village hidden in the leaves. Naruto was ready to drop. Even with his major reserves he was completely drained. He was having trouble even standing. He hadn't known the clones, while using his bloodline would drain so much chakra. He was in a very bad potion. If someone were to attack him, he was powerless, vulnerable. He would leave the rest to Old Man Hokage. The old man caught on faster than everybody else. He knew what Naruto had done. He also knew that the boy didn't have any chakra left. He gave Naruto an appreciative nod and a warm smile. Now back to the battle. I still have my old student to take care of. I can get him while he's distracted. But before the old man could make a move, Orochimaru lashed out at Naruto in a blind rage, pulling his sword out of his mouth and instantly impaled it through the boy's stomach. It emerged beside Naruto's spine. It was a clean-cut trough. That's what you get for interrupting my plans, and to think I was going to recruit you, Orochimaru whispered. Those words meant nothing to Naruto. A sad smile crept up on his face. At least I'll die protecting the people I hold precious, Naruto thought as his vision started to fade. He felt the numbing sensation of the poison spreading through his body. In a last-pit effort, Naruto pulled all the remaining chakra he had and tried to activate his bloodline. The poison was too far along, he was too weak. He took one last look at the people around him and let the darkness take hold. Well, there you have it. Onward. Naruto's funeral was a sad one for sure. More people showed than anyone thought. Then again, he had saved the village. He had saved the lives of countless shinobi and villagers. Everyone cried. Even the skies wept for Naruto. To an onlooker it was as if he had rain on his face, but the slightly jerky motions showed that even the hardened Hokage was crying. At least he would have been if not for the Kyuubi interfering at the last moments of Naruto's life. Got you. XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD. Naruto suddenly jerked forward in his seat. He started patting all over his body to make sure this wasn't a dream, and with a sigh of relief he started to remember his current situation. That was a close one, so let's see, seeing how much chakra I had left and what time I had gone back, I have just beat Niji, great. And my chakra reserves are at max, even better. Naruto leaned back and waited, for he had about 20 minutes before the invasion begins, so he decided to pay Kyuubi a visit. He had a plan. Naruto was once again in his mindscape. He had questioned time and time again why his mindscape was such a dump. He came to the conclusion that he'll never know. Naruto approached the giant golden gates that held the demon at bay. Kyuubi, I have a plan. Good for you, brat. I should put that on the calendar. Naruto's first thought. I can see it. Kyuubi answered sarcastically. You're such an ass. An annoyed Naruto answered. Bite me. So what is this plan of yours? Kyuubi asked. Well, seeing as how last time I tried saving Konoha I died, I figured that if you helped me make the clones using a bit of your chakra I could defeat Orochimaru as well or at least tie him up. Naruto explained. Not bad, kid. Fine, I'll help. Now leave me be, Kyuubi said before forcing Naruto out of his subconscious. Naruto seemed to stir in his spot as he was coming back to the land of the living. Good 3 minutes left, I still have time. Naruto's eyes turned to slits and he developed a small barely visible haze of red chakra as the demon within gave him his chakra. Naruto slowed time precisely when he remembered everybody falling asleep. He instantly made 200 shadow clones that went to work finding this culprit. Minutes later, one of his clones found a Umbu making hand signs. When unmasked it turned out to be Kabuto. Naruto tried to pass it off as he had also figured it out, but he was wearing a sound headband proving he was the enemy. After that was dealt with, Kabuto was tied up, and the Naruto clones transported all the non-shinobi at the stadium and in the town to a disclosed location in the forest. Naruto ran to the Hokage's box and tied the Kazekage to his chair with an amazing amount of ninja wire, which he put a jutsu that makes it 100 times stronger, something Jiraiya taught him, so he wouldn't be moving anytime soon, and to top it off he taped a piece of paper on top his head saying, "Dear old man, this isn't the Kazekage, it's your old student Orochimaru. I have seen through his disguise. Let's just say I've seen him take it off at a different time period that didn't end well for me. Naruto. A.K.A. Next Hokage. Guess burn after reading. I want to keep my identity unknown." After that he went back to where Gaara and his team were and proceeded to repeat what he did last time, still wary of getting too close to Gaara. XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD. Naruto and his clones proceeded to kill any enemy shinobi except the group of genin including Gaara, Temari and Kankuro. He didn't know why, but he couldn't get himself to kill them, and seeing as the Sound Four didn't need to die this time around he just tied them up and threw them in the most secure holding cell with an attached note saying, "Dear Ibiki Marino, these 4 people here are accomplices in the attempted murder of the 3rd Hokage. They are the personal bodyguards to Orochimaru, and if you have any questions ask the Hokage."
Minus mvedzu minus.
Naruto stood on top of the stone face of the 4th Hokage. The world stood still in front of him as he surveyed his handiwork. He had saved the village with nobody's notice. Sure, he didn't want anyone to know right away, but when he became a clan head the word would leak out that he had a bloodline that makes the precious Sharingan useless junk. Oh, this will be good. I can see the look on Sasuke's face when he realizes that the Sharingan isn't so great. Naruto thought, feeling a little queasy from chakra exhaustion. XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD. When time caught up with the world a lot had changed. First the stadium was empty, second there were a lot of bodies, third Orochimaru was pissed today the least. All people could do was stare when they looked at their surroundings. All the ninjas looked like wide-eyed idiots, their mouths agape. It was unbelievable, it was a widespread homicide. They had nothing to say, it just wasn't something you see on a daily basis. Felt like a nightmare to most. "What are you doing? I am the Kazekage. Release me," Orochimaru wailed. It was visible that he had lost this battle before it had ever started. He didn't even stand a chance. How did this happen? It was as if, well, there's nothing to even compare this to. Well, it was as if everybody had just died. The Hokage gave a quick look at the note suck on Orochimaru and instantly understood. He did a small Keton Jutsu and burned as instructed. He then proceeded to give a smile to Orochimaru. He apologized and began untying him, and little did Orochimaru know that this was a disguised plan. "Ha, that centile old fool still thinks I'm the Kazekage. You really have grown too old for your job. Well, at least I'll get my revenge as soon as he finishes untying him." Orochimaru's train of thought was interrupted because while the old man who was untying him had slipped out a kuni and stabbed him in the heart so hard that the tip was lodged in the stone seat behind him. The kuni used was coated in an incurable poison which was classified to everyone in the 5 great nations. As a result, Orochimaru was not immune to it. The Hokage had that kuni always ready if an assassination was required, as it took 1 minute to kill the person. A warm trickle of blood ran down the chair into a small pool that had started not seconds ago. His body was numb, a sign that the poison had worked. The life was leaving Orochimaru's eyes, his skin getting paler if possible. He looked into the weathered and sad eyes of his old sensei. Orochimaru didn't glare. He didn't yell or curse him to hell. He closed his eyes and smiled. Not a deceiving smile, but a genuine, warming smile. Now, what would cause such a thing, you might ask? Orochimaru was remembering the times he had spent with the old man. They had laughed, cried, and he had grown up under him. He had come to respect him, in a way, not just him but his whole team. Jiraiya, Tsunade, I probably won't be going where you're going, but I hope to see you again sometime soon. Then maybe I can forgive you for all the hardships I put you through. Those were the last thoughts of Orochimaru the Sannin. Many would say that it was out of character for him to die so gracefully, but many also say that in the last moments of your life, your true self comes out. The Hokage looked broken, as if killing Orochimaru broke his heart even after all the problems he had caused. But Orochimaru was still his student, and a bond between student and teacher is a special bond indeed. He let out a sigh of relief he had been holding for years. The Hokage looked over the empty stadium. Maybe Naruto will take my hat someday. He seems to have done more than me already. He has saved my people's blood today, a favor I can never repay. I'll have to reward him somehow, and I think I have an idea. I also have a feeling that I'm going to have to make a public announcement. Many would think, looking at the carnage, that Leaf had been attacked and it had been a long and bloody battle, but not one soul was lost, at least any from Leaf. To say the least, everyone was confused. How had this happened? How had everyone just died, all in the same fashion? A kuni slit across the throat. Some thought that a god had saved them. Kids thought that there was a superhero looking out for them. The truth wouldn't be accepted. Who would believe that a 12-year-old boy had killed over 1,500 people effortlessly? XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD. Meanwhile, Naruto was back home sleeping like a rock. He was drained to say the least, but not dead, which is a bonus. He didn't want the other people of Konoha to know he saved them. Not that any villager would believe him anyways. He would have to do with the praise of the few precious people that know his secret. His conscience was heavy. He had killed not just one but thousands of people. He wanted to throw up. He wanted to kill himself, but he couldn't. He had people to protect. He had to become Hokage. In his dreams, he saw the people's faces, calm and collected. They didn't know. They couldn't even defend themselves. They just crossed over with no memory of how they died. In his dreams, he crawled up into a ball and wept. He couldn't do anything else. The souls of the deceased by his hand surrounded him, asking why he had killed them. They had done no wrong yet, and they had hurt no one, so why had they died? His only answer to them was that they were going to hurt people, they were going to harm his precious people, they were going to harm him. He told them he had seen into the future, he had seen them kill. His words did nothing to ward off their anger. They yelled and whined about how they could not see the future, repeated how they had done no wrong and didn't deserve to die. Like an endless wave, they showed Naruto their families, their past and the future they had wanted. As every story was told, his heart broke. When the people had stopped, they started ripping at his body in anger. They ripped him to pieces, his body a blood splatter on the ground. His head remained untouched, but Naruto watched as his body was destroyed. He knew it wasn't real, but it felt as real as it gets. One man leaned down and whispered into his ear, "Now you feel our pain." His voice was dead and emotionless. But those words broke the last bit of soul he had. With that, all the ghosts faded away. Naruto shot up in his bed. He got up shakily and walked over to his bathroom. When he saw his reflection, he could see streaks running vertically down his face, leaving salty paths where he had cried during his dream. His pajamas were soaked with sweat, and his eyes were slightly silted, and his fingernails were elongated. As he turned around to go to bed, he knocked the glass holding his toothbrush, and it shattered on the ground. Naruto held his ears and screamed as he fell to the ground. Why had it been so loud? It was as if Sakura had screamed at the top of her lungs in his ears. Wait, no, he would have been bleeding from the ears if that was the case. But no matter, it was still a close second. Naruto slowly came around and stood up. His ears still ringing, he picked up the shards of glass. On the last piece, he cut his finger. A steady stream of blood coming out of the wound, he cursed and went to pick it up again successfully, but noticed that his cut had completely healed. No scar. What the hell is up with me tonight? Naruto thought as he marveled at his finger. Sure, he had fast regeneration, but this was crazy. Putting it off to figure it out tomorrow, he stumbled back over to his bed to see it completely burnt. Naruto wrinkled up his nose at the smell. Finding it particularly strong, evil chakra radiated from the bed. Naruto was shocked. How had this happened? Had he done this? Once again, Naruto was too tired to think and put it off till tomorrow. Instead, he decided to sleep on the futon. Naruto slowly shut his eyes, hoping that the dreams went away to let him get a few hours of blissful sleep. He laid there a few more minutes before letting darkness take him till morning. XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD. Naruto awoke with a start in the morning. He didn't know why, but he was interested to see the village's reaction to what had happened yesterday. He got up, shuffled over to his small bathroom, and brushed his teeth and tried to comb his hair in a vain effort. He quickly ate, then put on his clothes. He then proceeded to lock his door and go meet his team at their training ground. He walked down the street with a glowing smile on his face. Some still looked wryly at him, but it didn't faze his mood, as he walked at a brisk pace toward the meeting spot. When Naruto stepped into the training ground, he was surprised to see it void of life. No Kakashi, but that's not a surprise. But the weird part was that Sakura and Sasuke were absent as well. When he approached the 3 logs set up at the far end of the training ground, he saw a yellow piece of paper stuck to the center log with a shuriken. It said,
Dobe.
"Sensei, Sakura and I left for a meeting with the Hokage. He is going to brief us on what the hell happened yesterday. It was a mandatory meeting for all ninja, so we couldn't wait. But that's your problem. If you get this, head to the mission hall, that's where we'll be. Your superior, Sasuke." Still having a prank up his sleeve, he scratched out superior and put in arrogant Uchiha. Laughing, Naruto tore the paper off and decided to show Sasuke his handiwork. He then headed to the mission hall as instructed, and he already had an idea of what the old man was going to say. XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD. I have gathered you all to discuss the events yesterday. We have confirmed, with much help of Ibikis, that Sand and Sound were planning to overthrow me and destroy our village. We obtained this information after a few surviving enemy shinobi were interrogated. Some people had shocked looks on their faces. Now that does little to tell you how they were defeated. After talking to the person in question, he told me to keep his identity under wraps until he tells me otherwise. Now I will tell you that he is a shinobi of our village and is in this room. Many murmurs were heard. Now as to how he did it, I and a few others are the only who know, but it will be revealed in time. To ease your curiosity, he did it with the help of a bloodline, one that has not been seen in the shinobi world for millennia and is the only known wielder of this great power. Until then, let us celebrate our fortune of having this person on our side, and let us remember what had happened yesterday could have been us if not with his help. You are dismissed, Sarutobi said with a smile on his face. He expected to see them all leave, get up and leave, but no, they all sat there like lost puppies. Then like something snapped, all their hands went up. Just then Sarutobi knew he was in for a long afternoon. "So you're telling us one man defeated 1,500 Chunins and Jonins?" One person shouted. With that question, half the hands went down. "Yes, as I said, he had extraordinary abilities," the old Hokage said simply. "Not even a Sannin could do that. Even the 4th Hokage couldn't do that." A woman added on. A few more hands went down. "You're probably right," Sarutobi said simply again. "If we have someone so powerful in our village, why don't we know?" 2 people said in unison. "Deception is a ninja's greatest tool, you know. If you knew, word would get out about him and other countries would get assassins after him," the Hokage stated in a teacher-like way. "I looked at the bodies. It looked like they died in where they sat, and in all the same way. A kuni across the throat," a short man in shinobi wares said. 50 hands went down. "Yes, you would be correct, they all died the same way. And if it's any conciliation, they didn't feel a thing. It happened too fast," the old man said, emotionless. Much to his dismay, there were still 100 or so hands still up. "Was it Sasuke Uchiha?" Sakura yelled, more like screamed, causing all the people around her to cover their ears, curse, and then say something about a banshee. All the hands went down. It looks like that was the general question. "No more questions. I said you were dismissed," the professor said in a steely tone, daring them to counteract his word. He had had enough questions, but he had a feeling that that was the wrong question to finish on. XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD. Sasuke saved us all. A group with Sasuke riding on top like a king were cheering and chanting his name. No, when Sasuke was questioned about if he had saved them, he said, quote, "What other bloodline could be as powerful as the Sharingan? After all, I am the last Uchiha. The people would expect nothing less from the great Uchiha. Who would ever think the dead last could save the village?" While Sasuke was off getting his ego a perm, Naruto was getting his favorite food at Ichiraku's, secretly celebrating his victory. "What are you so happy about?" I am questioned. She had her elbows on the table and her hands at either side of her face, and she had a warming smile on that tended to be contagious as Naruto got one himself. "Oh, nothing, just having a good day," Naruto said, digging into his ramen again. As he ate, the Sasuke group went by. Naruto got up momentarily and stopped eating so he could go slowly down the group because he needed to ask Sasuke a question. "What are you celebrating?" Naruto asked calmly. "Dobe, you didn't hear. I saved the village," Sasuke said with a voice that was drenched with arrogance. "What? You saved them from running out of emo freaks?" Naruto knew what he was actually talking about, but decided to make a retort instead. Like Naruto thought he would, Sasuke jumped down and charged Naruto with a Chidori in hand. Naruto sidestepped him easily and with speed he didn't know he had. He then slammed him in the ribs, hearing a few snap, and grabbed his shirt, then floored him into the ground, making a small crater. Naruto bent down and whispered into Sasuke's ear, "Your arrogance weakens you. If you saved the village, how did the dead last just beat you? I know you're lying because it was me who saved the village, not the Uchiha princess." And with that, Naruto disappeared into the darkness, leaving a whimpering and angry Uchiha. I don't know, Naruto. That's it. That's all. Alright guys, sorry to all my readers. I know this chapter was late coming up, like epically late, but something happened in my family and my old computer like literally blew up, so I had to wait a while to get a new computer. Also, with all that's been happening, I couldn't motivate myself to write. But things have started settling down, so I should be able to write more often. I hope my writing hasn't gotten worse, so I'll try my best. Thanks. Onward. The Hokage had a dilemma, not like choosing between chocolate and vanilla ice cream. No, he was deciding whether to go to his counselors about making Naruto a clan head or not. See, the only thing he could figure was that the villagers haven't calmed down yet from the Chunin exam massacre, as it continues to be a topic of interest. So to bring the fact that Naruto has a bloodline now would cause uproar. Nobody would believe that he had actually saved them all. While if he baited his time, the chance of Naruto getting accepted as a clan head would be much higher. But still a hard choice nonetheless. Naruto was walking down the street with his head held high and not a care in the world. He had saved the village. He wasn't happy that he saved the villagers. He was happy because to save the village from an invasion that could have taken the lives of his friends meant he was quickly on his way to becoming a Hokage. Outside of his thoughts, Naruto was actually on a quest to find Jiraiya, but so far it held to no avail, although he had a good idea of where he'd be. It wasn't actually a hard thing to figure out what place in Konoha had the most women, better yet bathing women in a very easily watchable place. Naruto walked into the local hot springs looking for an old guy with white hair and a red robe, giggling like a Sasuke fangirl. He seemed to have hit the jackpot. He was secretly crouched in front of the flimsy bamboo fence between the men and woman's side, doing what you all think he's doing. "Hey Jiraiya, I have a question," Naruto screamed from across the spring. He needed someone to help him with his newly discovered power, or rather to test it on him. "Why must you always interrupt me when I'm busy?" Jiraiya asked, crossing his arms and sitting on the ground like a spoiled brat. "'Tis the fate of a pervert to be interrupted when being pervy," Naruto said in a teacher way, all the while with a big toothy grin on his face. Yeah, whatever. So what do you want?" Jiraiya asked, amused by what Naruto said. "I want to show you a cool trick I invented, and see if you knew any way to expand on it," Naruto said while walking out the door, ushering Jiraiya to follow, so he did. XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD. Jiraiya and Naruto stood in a training ground far outside of Konoha facing each other, so Jiraiya decided to break the silence. "So what's this new jutsu of yours?" "Well, it's kind of complicated, but it's only something I can do," It's like a sub-power to something else, you'll find out soon enough. Naruto said, trying to avoid telling the man. He didn't know why, but he didn't want him to know. Yet. Alright. Well, show this sub-power then. Jiraiya said suspiciously. Here, let me show you. Stand over there by that rock face and try and dodge this kuni. Naruto said, pointing at a vertical slab of stone. Ok. Jiraiya mumbled out, walking to where Naruto had instructed. He shouldn't have a problem avoiding a thrown kuni no matter how fast he can throw it. He is only genin, isn't he? Naruto picked the first kuni that came to hand in his pouch. He focused on it, infusing the metal with the third type of chakra inside of him, first being blue, second being red, and the third golden, the time-controlling chakra. He pulled back his arm and threw the kuni as hard as he could. Jiraiya saw the kid throw the kuni, but as soon as it left his hand, he couldn't see it anymore. Where the hell did it go? Whoa, that was close. A kuni flying several hundred miles per hour sliced through Jiraiya's ear and went into the stone behind him. What the hell? I didn't even see that thing, or even feel it hit my ear, Jiraiya said from the spot where he landed on the ground. I told you to dodge it, or better yet, try and stop it. Now we'll do it again, but take it seriously, Naruto said, taking another kuni out of his pocket. Alright, I'm ready, Jiraiya said, getting into an attack stance, just to see Naruto start walking away. Hey, where you going? Well, if you're going to have any chance of stopping my kuni, I'm gonna have to be quite far away, Naruto yelled from over his shoulder, not caring to turn around. He stopped walking at about 1 mile away, holding up the charged kuni, taking his time, aiming his throw at Jiraiya. If you blinked, you'd miss it, was the only thing Jiraiya could think after narrowly avoiding Naruto's torpedo kuni. You could kill someone with that from a couple miles away. Before they could throw a long-range jutsu, you'd be dead. It was an amazing technique, it really was. Now how could he improve it? Add lighting, maybe an explosion on contact, make it home in on a chakra signature so he couldn't miss. No, that wouldn't work, he might hit a fellow ninja. I've got it. XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD. Sorry it took so long, Naruto, but I figured something out for you. A very tired-looking Jiraiya screamed while running toward a little blonde boy. It's a complicated seal, but maybe you could make several copies of it. He handed Naruto the small slip of paper he had been running through the village with. Oh, thanks a lot, pervy sage. But what does it do? Naruto's words trailed off as he got lost looking at the intricate lines on the paper. Well, after it's activated, a hard jolt to it will make an explosion of lightning, frying everything within 20 meters of where it hits, Jiraiya explained proudly. Hoping to see a look of awe on his student's face, he saw one of confusion. Hard jolt? Naruto questioned. What do you mean? And how am I supposed to throw a slip of paper a long distance? First, you wrap the piece of paper around the hilt of your kuni. Secondly, a hard jolt, as in throwing the kuni hard and hitting something to stop the trajectory completely. Clear things up, Jiraiya explained in a half-hearted tone. Then he saw it, the look of awe he had been waiting for. And before he knew it, he was wrapped in a huge bear hug from a little boy. Thank you. You have no idea how much this is gonna help me, Naruto exclaimed, slowing time and running at full speed toward his apartment to make copies of this seal. XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD. Naruto and the third sat across each other in a proofed room, blocking all ninja arts, sounds, and seals. Why for all the security? Well, because they were talking about Naruto's bloodline, of course. So how does this new aspect to your bloodline work? Sarutobi asked, taking a long drag on his pipe, waiting for an answer. Well, if I had to explain it, it's that I infuse my chakra with an object like a kuni or shuriken, and when I throw it, time speeds up for it, but everything else slows down. Naruto took a minute to collect his thoughts before he kept on going. Depending on how much chakra I put into it determines how far and how fast it goes. So if I pour a lot of my special chakra into it, it ends up going hundreds of times faster than a regular kuni. This makes this the best technique for, let's say, assassination and just for combat in general. Yes, very useful indeed. So does it only work with kuni and such, or does it work with anything, like let's say a playing card? Sarutobi questioned, holding up an ace of spades and handing it to the boy. I'm not sure, I haven't tried it before, Naruto said while taking the offered card. Focusing hard, Naruto pushed as much gold chakra as possible into the card. Seeing it glow for a moment, he thought he would give it a try. Holding the card up, he proceeded to throw it horizontally at a bush in the corner of the room. Without much effort, it cut through the shrub as if it were made of rice paper. Both the boy and the withered Hokage stared in shock at the perfect cut in the plant. This could be a useful tool, Naruto thought. He could write the explosive seal on the card, put a sharp metal rim on it, and it would be deadly. He also noticed that the card flew just as good as a shuriken of a kuni. He would have to look into this. You truly are an extraordinary ninja, Naruto. Nobody deserves a bloodline as powerful as you, Naruto, Sarutobi said with a warming smile on his face. Ruffling the boy's hair, he sent him on his way, and the Hokage sat down for an afternoon of civilians complaining about their life and how they need money and whatnot. XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD. Naruto stood in a field just outside of Konoha. He was beaten and bloody, and as ninja it tended to happen often. Now to the curious onlooker it looked as if Naruto had gotten into a fight with a stack of papers and lost. But the reality was that he was actually training. How did I get it to work last time? Every time I do it now the card explodes in shards of paper flying fast. And it hurts. If it hadn't been for the QB, I'd be dead right now. Naruto thought and thought, but to no end had he figured out how he'd done the card trick in front of the Hokage. And would those cards be ever useful? Kuni weigh a lot and gravity affects them a lot more than a simple card, and he could carry more of them at one time. But it all mean nothing if he can't do it more than once. But what's time travel for other than practice? But he was much in need of a visit to Hinata. She had an affect on him others didn't. She filled one of the gaps in his life, the need to love someone. Yes, he had decided that he liked Hinata, he liked her a lot, and something told him she felt the same. Oh, for example, fainting when he gives her a hug. Well, now he was off to visit Hinata, taking a pit stop at his apartment to wash all the blood off his clothes and skin. He intended to show Hinata his powers tonight, and had an experiment he wanted to try before he met up with her. He slipped into some casual clothes he had gotten just yesterday. It was a green short-sleeve shirt with a black and green camouflage trench coat. The coat was full of hidden pockets and was made of decisively strong fabric, capable of slowing a kuni to where it was non-lethal. His pants were of the design of basic ninja pants. They were camouflage as well. It was also full of pockets, containing a deck of cards, kuni, shuriken, and the basic ninja wire. Well, it was casual attire for a ninja, I guess. Anyways, Naruto once again stood on top of the cliff he had come to know very well. He had a rose in his hand. If this experiment went right, he would give it to her in due time. He swan dived off the rock face in an almost poetic way. Naruto felt his heart beating hard. Why did HEW have to do this again? Oh, right, to get enough golden chakra to go back in time he had to threaten his life somehow, and this just turned out to be the most convenient method. Naruto pictured himself standing in that field all cut and beaten up. He felt a huge tug on his stomach and the pain that followed. Looking at the rose he had in his hand all the while, Naruto found himself much more tired and feeling dirtier as well. He lifted up his hand to see the rose gone. Letting himself frown deeply, he began to try and figure out how to get this to work. He just had to. It meant the difference between protecting his loved ones and not. Back to square one, I guess. But though was going to visit Hinata anyways, he needed a break from the training. XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD. Hey GG. Naruto yelled after the battle-hardened Hokage. Do you know where I could get playing cards bordered with metal and sharpened? The Hokage stopped in his tracks. He knew why the boy wanted this done. But where could he get this done? Try the forge, but you might not want to go as yourself if you know what I mean? The Hokage said with a wink before turning around and continuing his walk through the village. I already was heading there, but the old man has a good point. Hey, if I go as Sasuke, I could probably get it done for free too. Naruto quickly transformed into Sasuke and sped across town toward the billowing clouds of smoke that could only be made by a forge. When he arrived, he was greeted by wide smiles, smiles that sickened him. Why did they have to treat the last Uchiha like a princess? What was so special about him? He's just an emo bitch who can't even wipe his ass without someone's help. What brings the honorable last Uchiha to my humble shop? The old man at the counter said in a praising tone while doing a half bow to Sasuke/Naruto. Naruto pulled out his desk of cards and laid them on the table. I need you to make these into metal with sharpened edges, as I am going to be using them in battle, Naruto said in a flat tone, trying his best not to hurt the withered man for his selective kindness. Of course, here let me show you one of my secret jutsu. I learned it while I was in Steel Country on a mission. It is the ability to turn anything into steel to a certain limit, of course, the old man said while writhing the hand seals on a piece of parchment. It is a very consuming jutsu, and depending on how much chakra you put into it depends on the quality of the steel you make. Oh, and I've tried this with other metals, and it doesn't work, trust me, only steel. Naruto took back his cards and took the scroll from the outstretched arm of the retired ninja. Naruto tried not to say thank you, so just bowed his head slightly and walked out of the store. On his way out, he heard the old man say with what sounded like a smile, "Always a pleasure to serve the mighty Uchiha. Use that jutsu to your advantage, not that you need it. XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD." Naruto and Jiraiya stood before the Hokage both stone-faced, not knowing what the Hokage was going to say. "Gentlemen, I have a favor to ask of you too," the Hokage said, smoking his pipe. "Ask away, old man," Naruto said, loosening up a bit. "Well, at the request of the council, you have been asked to take a trip to Sand to make sure that they are still holding true to the newly remade treaty, and to make a log of all the bloodlines in the area. You never know when that'll come in handy." The Hokage finished with a long drag on his pipe, savoring the taste. "Well, don't you have a Sand representative here? Who does that for you?" Jiraiya questioned, seeing a gap in his logic. "Yes, of course, but it's more of a security measure. Better to have the word of a Konoha ninja than one of a person who could be hiding something to protect their home village," the Hokage reasoned. "I still don't understand, but all right, we'll leave tomorrow at sunrise," Jiraiya said, seeing the Hokage nod. He ushered himself and Naruto out. "Wait, Naruto, stay behind, I had something else to ask you," the professor said from behind his desk, motioning for Naruto to sit down. After Jiraiya had left, the Hokage began the explanation of the real motive behind the mission. "I did some digging for you, and found that the last known person with a bloodline similar to yours lived in Sand. Now it's up to you whether you want to tell Jiraiya or not, and see what you can find about you clan. Good luck. Be sure to fill me in when you get back." The look of joy was blatantly obvious on Naruto's face. A shout of thank you was heard before Naruto rushed to his apartment to pack for his mission, of which he was very excited for. "Are we there yet?" Naruto asked for the millionth time. What he wasn't used to going to Suna at normal pace, it seemed like a lot longer. "No, and stop asking. God, you're like a baby. Now shut up and keep walking," an irritable Jiraiya said. Turning away from the boy, he crossed his arms and walked ahead. He wasn't mad at the boy, no, far from it. He was just mad that the counselors had sent him, one of the Sannin, on a petty peace mission. Why couldn't he be doing something more worth his while? But no use complaining now, they were close anyways. They walked for a while in silence before Naruto couldn't stand it anymore. "Sensei, I have a question," Naruto said, in a less whiny tone. "If it has to do with how long till we get to Suna, then I'm not answering. But anything else is fine," Jiraiya said from over his shoulder, expecting the kid to go oh and just forget it. He didn't know how wrong he was. "Well, it's actually a question about a bloodline. Do you know much about bloodlines?" Naruto asked. He knew what he was going to do. He was going to tell Jiraiya, but go about it carefully. He needed to know so he could help him search for his clan history in Suna. "Yeah, of course, I'm an information gatherer. I tend to know quite a bit about bloodlines. Any in particular you want to know about?" Jiraiya said, looking at his student inquisitively. "Well, have you ever heard of a bloodline that can control time?" Naruto said half seriously, deciding not to look at Jiraiya as he talked, not wanting his eyes to give anything away. That's a tough one. The stuff I do know about it are classified, known only to the Hokage, but I can tell you that I gathered all the information I have in Suna, the place where we just happened to be going." Jiraiya said, holding his chin in a thinking matter. But why the question anyways? It's a very rare bloodline, only 4 people ever known to have it. Jiraiya lectured. He scuffed his wooden shoe on the dirt road. What harm could it do to tell his student? How could he use the information for bad? After all, he is just a genin. Meanwhile, Naruto was trying oh so very hard to come up with a reason why he asked. I don't think it through enough, I guess. Just as Naruto opened his mouth to give Jiraiya the best answer he could come up with, he was stopped by Jiraiya's hand. Now listen to me, I'm gonna tell you some classified things, alright? If anyone finds out, I told you will be in a lot of shit, okay? Seeing Naruto nod, he continued. Seeing as how you're just curious about it, I trust you to keep this to yourself? Receiving another nod, he pressed on. Now the last person known to have this bloodline was a friend of mine actually. She did have a child, but no one knows who it is. Or she also had a husband, but I'll get to who that was later. Jiraiya said, seeing that Naruto was just about to ask. Not many knew she was married, but very few people. One of those people being me. The extent of her powers were unknown even to me. Jiraiya was stopped mid-sentence. Wait, so the last person with this bloodline was a girl? Well then, who was it? Naruto interrupted. I was getting to that, give me a second. Wait, did you eat sugar or something? You seem really excited? Jiraiya asked, giving Naruto an odd look. Naruto shook his head and decided to stop talking and jumping in the air. Okay, as I was saying, this woman had a signature jutsu, which involved her moving faster than humanly possible. Now, she did this with her bloodline, but she didn't want to reveal this talent to the public. So she came up with let's say a decoy jutsu. Now, for years people have been trying to do her jutsu but have been unable because to do it you have to have her bloodline. But her husband, being quite the genius, invented his own jutsu after hers. One that could be used by anyone. Now his jutsu was considerably slower than hers but still amazing nonetheless. Jiraiya paused to check if Naruto was still listening. And to his surprise, he wasn't only listening, he was treating every word as if it were gold. So he continued, now this last part, it's very important that no one but me, and you know this, not even your best friends can know, alright? Okay, well, the one thing that gave away to people that she was using her special jutsu was that her eyes turned golden when she used it, and when she moved she left a trail of yellow behind her as a result of her yellow eyes. Her husband's jutsu had somewhat the same effect but was because of his strikingly yellow hair. Now when I say her eyes turned yellow, I mean her whole eye, not just her pupil, her eyes turned totally gold. It was quite a sight to see, you could say, Jiraiya said. Shrugging, he put his hands in his pocket and looked at the never-ending desert in front of him. There, that's how I'll prove it to him, I'll focus my gold chakra into my eyes. Naruto screamed mentally. So who was she anyways? Naruto asked, trying to hide his excitement about his recent discovery. She was our beloved 4th Hokage's wife, Jiraiya said solemnly, remembering painful memories of his past. At that moment Naruto stopped for 2 reasons. One, because well, if the 4th had a wife who had his bloodline and it could only be passed down through family, it meant only one thing, he was the 4th son. So not even Jiraiya knew my mom was pregnant. I know the 4th died, but what happened to my mom? Naruto thought, feeling as if a huge weight was lifted off his shoulders. He finally knew who his parents were. The second thing was that something moved in ground below him, and only ninja can hide underground. Naruto collected as much chakra as he could muster and slammed his foot into the ground with all the force he had in him and did a backflip 50 feet back. Instantly all the sand exploded outward. The result was an 80-foot deep crater with a duck's ass in the middle. Oh, you just picked the wrong time to spy on me. Not a good idea to ruin a very happy moment of my life, Naruto said, crossing his arms from where he stood. Sasuke got up and dusted himself off. What could you, the dead last, do to me, the mighty Uchiha, the holder of the most powerful bloodline in Konoha? I dare you to try and hit me, and then I will show you the power of the Sharingan, Sasuke said, his ego said, while activating his bloodline. Did you hear everything we just said? Naruto asked calmly, slightly adjusting his stance, in case Sasuke came after him first. Yes, I did. And I will tell the Hokage and the consolers that Jiraiya told you classified information, and then I'll get you both kicked out of Konoha for good. Sasuke said smoothly, a smirk creeping onto his face. Good, I hopped you had heard that. Now I can pound you till you forget it. Now let's see how the last Uchiha holds up against the last Namikaze, Naruto said, turning on his bloodline and rushing toward Sasuke. But the gold eyes and the flash of yellow was not lost to Jiraiya, who stood looking dumbfounded, unable to process this revelation. I knew he was the fourth son, but didn't think he would have inherited his wife's bloodline. Now I know why we're going to Sand. Kushina's father and mother lived here. So that mean the old man knows, While Jiraiya mused about the possibilities of having Naruto as a student, the fight, that was rather one-sided, before him was lost to his mind. Naruto pumped gold chakra throughout his body, and seeing time start to slow, he walked toward Sasuke, planning on knocking him down a notch. Sasuke saw a faint hue of gold surround Naruto. He was surprised the dobe could even do that, but he saw a flash of yellow cross his vision, then nothing. The Uchiha are renowned, yes, but to me not for their eyes, or their looks, or even their fighting style, but their arrogance, Naruto said in a chilling voice that sounded much too powerful for a genin. Letting that hang in the air for a second, he continued. You may disagree, but how can a clan be famous with only one member, when the only one left has no honor, no respect? The Uchiha were a great clan. You just happen to get their name. I say the Uchiha aren't much of a clan. All that's left is a orphan with a superiority complex. Now look into my eyes and tell me who's are more special, Naruto said from behind Sasuke. Slowing time yet again, he appeared behind the duck-ass as he turned to see where the voice had come from. Grabbing his shoulder, he whipped him around and stared into Sasuke's eyes. Fear is what Naruto saw in his eyes, but what Sasuke saw was much more horrifying. He saw two golden eyes, ones that looked as if they had seen everything, been everywhere, and it scared him. He got lost in his eyes, felt like they were sucking him in. They made him feel small, worthless, as if his life was but a whim of Naruto's. That feeling would forever haunt his dreams. He would never admit that it scared him. Nothing scares Sasuke, so he smirked and said, or tried to say, what is that supposed to scare me or something? But instead, his face sort of twitched and he said a sentence of gibberish before passing out. What a worthless piece of… you know what, whatever, he's not worth it. Naruto spat. He walked up the sand dune and walked over to Jiraiya, who was finally returning to the land of the living. Seeing the state of the Uchiha, he looked at Naruto, whose eyes were turning back to normal, but Jiraiya saw what he needed to. What did you do to him? Jiraiya questioned. I toyed with him a bit before he passed out. It was kind of anticlimactic, you know? Naruto grunted, examining his handiwork. Naruto and Jiraiya both shrugged before walking along, leaving the Uchiha to die or wake up and head home. Both were rooting for the first choice. So what else do you know about my bloodline? Naruto asked casually, sighing mentally after seeing nothing but sand on the horizon. Well, let's see what you can do already, Jiraiya asked, sighing mentally as well. Well, I can do XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD. Wow, well, the only thing Kushina showed me to show to you that you don't already know is a time wave. Jiraiya paused for dramatic effect. Well, what is it, pervy sage? Naruto questioned enthusiastically, cringing ever so slightly as he took another step in the scalding hot sand. Geez, this sand is hot enough that I wouldn't be surprised if it all melted into glass. Naruto thought, mentally cursing that he didn't buy the shoes with thicker soles. Well, you gather as much of you special chakra as you can and do the signs boar, tiger, snake, monkey, Jiraiya said, making the signs as he talked. And release it while standing close to someone or something. Here, try it. Naruto did as told and copied Jiraiya. Jiraiya watched in amazement as Naruto was enveloped by a golden haze of yellow. Naruto carefully did the hand signs that Jiraiya had shown him. He was amazed by the skill Naruto had over his bloodline. It was the same, no better than the control Kushina had had. This bloodline is truly an honor to behold, but I better tell him of the effects of using it too much before he does himself harm. Naruto closed his eyes in concentration, focusing on tapping into his chakra. He felt it surge through his body. Doing the hand signs he had been shown, he noticed that his gold chakra was sucked from his body, violently causing him to double over in pain. What's happening? Naruto thought, getting a mouthful of scalding sand. When he opened his eyes, he saw that everything had slowed. But then why the hand signs? He thought about it but decided to play a prank on Pervy Sage for no reason. He calmly walked up to him, noticing that he was completely still. But what could he do in a desert as a practical joke? He decided the fire jutsu at his feet would melt the sand into glass and trap him. More complex than pulling down his pants, yes, but funnier as well. Naruto started making the hand signs for a fire jutsu but was stopped as Jiraiya put him in a headlock. Now let me explain what you just did with your bloodline, Jiraiya whispered in Naruto's ear, the boy's answer coming in the form of a nod, seeing as Naruto was still trying to get over the initial shock of a moving Jiraiya. See, all you thought you did was slow time for you, but what the hand signs do send out a wave of chakra that can slow time for other people as well. Understand? Naruto shook his head in agreement, now realizing how awesome this new power is. This is how we'll show Hinata and the old man my power. Naruto fell again to his knees in pain, his eyes and head burning in excruciating pain. Releasing the jutsu, he passed out, blood dripping from his mouth, ears and nose. Jiraiya cursed from where he stood. I see he's been using his bloodline way too much. Well, at least we're close to Suna, cause he will need a medic and fast. Jiraiya picked up Naruto and slung him over his shoulder. Pumping chakra into his legs, he took off toward the sandy village. XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD. Well, where am I? Naruto's eyes flittered open, his arms coming up to protect his eyes from the bright sun. Looking at the rest of his body, he saw that he was in a hospital gown. What happened? All I remember is a lot of pain, then nothing. Naruto let out a breath he hadn't known he was holding. After realizing where he was, he sat up slowly, feeling a bit lightheaded. He spotted Jiraiya sleeping in a chair by his hospital bed. Hey, Pervy Sage, wake up! Naruto half yelled. He twisted his body and swung his legs over the side of his bed, cringing slightly at the soreness in his legs and arms. What? Oh, you're up. How do you feel? Jiraiya asked, whipping his eyes in an attempt to wake up. I'm sore, but that's about it. What happened? Naruto stretched like a cat before whipping his own eyes. Well, I was going to tell you a secret about your bloodline before you demonstrated it for me, Jiraiya said while standing up and walking to Naruto's side. Your special chakra, the gold stuff, it's a very potent chakra, and the more you use it, the more it poisons you, Jiraiya said solemnly, shifting slightly, feeling uncomfortable with the look Naruto was giving him. Well, what about the Kyuubi? Can't he do anything about it? I thought he was supposed to heal me, Naruto questioned, trying to grasp any remaining hope. No, because this is a chakra-based poison, it affects your chakra system. And the Kyuubi can only heal chakra poisoning with his chakra, Jiraiya said offhandedly, while dusting himself off. Which surprisingly isn't as potent as your time chakra. Now come on, let's start our mission. But, wait, what does this mean? Will I die if I keep on using my bloodline? Naruto said worriedly, throwing on his clothes in the process. All Naruto got in response was a hand motioning him toward the hall. Geez, this sucks. Looks like you'll have to start training my other jutsu now, Naruto thought with a frown. Family Heirloom Chapter 10. Wind Hammer! Naruto screamed, lifting his hand up the air around his hand, shimmering in the shape of a giant mallet. Violently sweeping his hand in a downward axis, his enemy doing a back flip away, surprised by the sheer amount of power behind that hit, not even waiting to imagine the damage if that would have hit him. Good, but try harder, Gaki. You need to know how to use these without your bloodline, Jiraiya exclaimed, jumping out of the way of a wind bullet. I can't keep dodging these forever, he will eventually get me. Now my turn, Jiraiya said while doing the signs for a finishing move that can't be countered with wind. Naruto watched Jiraiya with a calculating glance. His throat bulged to unimaginable size before black oil exploded from his mouth, rushing toward Naruto at a very hasty pace. With only seconds to think, Naruto decided to put to use a jutsu he had copied from Sasuke. More or less, he just took the concept of his Grand Fireball jutsu and put his own twist on it. Dragon Breath! Incinerate! Naruto screamed, A stream of blue/black fire erupted from his mouth. The outcome was as expected. I'm gonna feel that in the morning, Naruto said in a raspy voice, wincing at the pain in his throat. What the hell was that brat? Good God. Stop inventing jutsu, it's getting really annoying. A slightly singed Jiraiya said in an annoyed tone. When that jutsu hit my oil, it didn't even cause a huge explosion as I had imagined. The oil just kind of evaporated. Yeah, I don't ever plan on using that jutsu again. It hurts my throat. Cough. A lot. Naruto said in a voice that sounded a lot like he had been smoking for many years. Jiraiya, I have a question. Yeah, Gaki, Jiraiya said, dusting himself off. You never answered when I asked about if using my bloodline would kill me. I need to know. Naruto said, shifting from foot to foot, he wanted to know. But at the same time he really didn't. Figuring that training was over for today, he started to walk away from the training grounds and head back to the hotel. Turning, he motioned to Jiraiya to follow. Seeing him nod, Naruto kept on walking, waiting for an answer. Well, kid, I really didn't want to burden you with that information. Hey, wait up! Running to catch up to Naruto, he fell into step with him and continued. But since you asked, you deserve to know. Jiraiya took a deep breath to collect his thoughts. It does eventually kill you. If you use it too much, it will. But if you don't use it every day, your body will eventually reabsorb the poison. You know that saying, with great power comes great responsibility, Naruto? Jiraiya asked, finally looking at the boy. Seeing him with a determined look on his face, he let a smile grace his face. You will go far, my boy. You won't even let death slow you down. Yeah, what about it? Naruto asked, not seeing the relevance. Giving Jiraiya a funny look, he kept on walking, the town coming into view. Okay, maybe I was wrong, he's just too stupid to understand he might die. That's the last time I give him credit where it's apparently not due. Oh my God! Never mind, you're too dense to get it. Jiraiya exclaimed, bashing Naruto over the head as they walked through the hotel door. Why do you have to be so young, confusing pervy sage? I mean, I got what you said about my chakra poisoning me, but the r-******est I don't g. Naruto dropped like a stone, not even realizing how tired he was. As soon as he hit the bed, he was gone, not even being able to finish his sentence. Jiraiya looked at Naruto, surprised that he stopped mid-sentence. You knucklehead. You don't even realize how much chakra those jutsu use up. Jiraiya tucked Naruto in and went to sleep as well, his last thoughts before he went to sleep were, sorry I left you alone for all these years, Naruto. It was better for us to meet later in life. Trust me, I'll make it up to you. Unbeknownst to them, someone had been secretly spying on Naruto and Jiraiya all day, and watched the current scene with disgust. They'll have much to tell my master. XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD. Time skip. 2 weeks. Master, came the sound of an unknown voice, the only background noise being water dripping to the floor, and if water could sound menacing, this water was proving to be menacing. What is it, Ray-Gen? A clam voice responded to the running messenger. A shadowy outline of a man appeared out of the darkness, seeming to be made of shadows himself. The sound of wood hitting stone floor resonated in the massive open room as the man walked closer, awaiting the arrival of the now slowly jogging messenger. Bowing to the mysterious figure just out of the ray of light in the middle of the room, he began explaining. Sorry for being so loud, master, but I did as you asked and was spying on Naruto as a potential recruit. I hid and followed Naruto and Jiraiya were training, and during their mission, they were doing some mock fighting to make Naruto more battle-ready during the trip, and I noticed a few times that Naruto used some. Ray-Gen took a minute to calm himself. Weird chakra, it looked gold to me, and he was also using some very high-level wind and fire justice, of which even the likes of Jiraiya had trouble avoiding. Not hearing an answer, Ray-Gen started to worry that he had said something wrong. Master Danzo. Danzo's one-eyed face materialized into the light, followed by the rest of his bandaged and broken body. Very good, Ray-Gen. And by your report, would you recommend Naruto to join our forces? Danzo said in a strong yet calm voice. And did you happen to hear anything Naruto and Jiraiya said? I'm sorry, sir. I could not hear any of their conversation, Though they seemed to have talked quite a bit, I was too far away most of the time. Their battle was quite a large affair. I worried for my own safety by getting too close. And yes, based on my report, I would highly recommend Naruto as being on the top of our recruit list. He seems to have immense talent. Reijin shifted in his position. He had been walking all day, and his feet were really starting to bother him. I see. Did anything else eventful happen during the supposed peace mission? Seeing Reijin nodded his head no. Accepting his grunt's answer, he continued. You are dismissed. And again, very good Reijin. Danzo melted back into the darkness. I have plenty to think about tonight. Plenty indeed. If he is attached to Jiraiya too firmly, I may never be able to recruit him. That's enough for now. I must sleep. And besides, I have someone else in mind. Someone who has something I could really use for my personal gain. Danzo limped to his room quietly, as quiet as you can be with a cane on stone floor. He thought until he passed from consciousness to the land of the dreaming. Much thinking indeed. XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD. Yo wown. Wow, that was the best sleep I had in a long time. It must have been the trip over the last 2 weeks. Took a lot out of me. Nice to sleep in my own bed though. Naruto stretched as he walked toward his restroom, almost tripping over all the clutter on his floor. As he walked about his room, slowly wakening, all he could hear was birds chirping and the rustle of Saturday early risers outside. What beautiful weather! Naruto yelled to no one in particular as he took a look from his bedroom window. Deciding that he wanted to see what new smells would greet him today, he opened the window and was greeted with hundreds of delightful smells, the smell of fresh made ramen being the most recognizable. Instantly running for his hazardous pile of clothes in the corner of his room, he quickly put a pair of clothes on, determined to not waste another minute of this beautiful day. A bowl of miso ramen please, Naruto yelled to the old man behind the stand, who smiled as he handed one he already made for him. How did you know? Naruto asked, clearly surprised by the old man's preparedness. Naruto was already lost in his food though, so he wasn't that keen on getting an answer. Oh Naruto, you come here every morning and order the same thing. Why would this morning be any different? Oh, and that reminds me, I should go and get another bowl, seeing as how you are almost done the first. Haha. The ramen man ran to the back of the food stand to grab another bowl. It's a job in itself to keep up with Naruto's insane eating habits. After eating another 7 bowls of ramen, Naruto could finally begin his day. Asterisk belch. Asterisk oh man am I ever full. Naruto exclaimed as he pushed the curtain/door aside. Where to next? Well, to find the old man Hokage of course. Naruto bolted down the street toward old man Hokage, getting a few yells and curses as he raced between crowds. Hokage! Old man! Naruto screamed as he materialized behind the Hokage. He had so much to tell the professor. Old man, you're getting slow. You sure you don't wanna just give me your hat and call it even? Gee boy, you're going to give me a heart attack one of these days. I'm glad you're back. How was your mission? I see that you got back quite late last night, and I think seeing as how your bloodline works, no one if fast than you, the Hokage said with a grin, masking his surprise. I'm glad you got home safely, Naruto. The Hokage thought with a smile as Naruto recounted the events that happened on their trip there. But anyways, after our battle, Jiraiya and me went back to the hotel and crashed for the night. The next morning we basically just walked around town, and we eventually came across the town hall. We were warmly greeted. Jiraiya explained our being there, and they welcomed us and said that their resources were at our disposal. So we thanked them and went our way. Later I was thinking about my real mission. Naruto paused a minute to recollect his thoughts, and continued. And I thought, hey, you think they may have some records I could read about my bloodline? So I hightailed it back to the town hall and met with the kekkei and asked him if he had a library on bloodlines. He said that they did, but even he was not at liberty to let a foreigner in. But he did provide me with an alternative. Naruto was stopped by the Hokage's hand. Man, what now? I was just getting started. Naruto crossed his arms and grunted. All this achieved was making the Hokage laugh. Naruto, please, I didn't ask for a blow-by-blow account. Just resume it for me. I need to go for my late morning walk. I love the boy to pieces, but sometimes he can be quite a handful. Naruto's frown quickly turned back into a toothy smile. Sure thing, old man. Well, basically, he sent me to an old woman of the village who has a great deal of knowledge on bloodlines. I was also told that she is quite proficient in the art of puppetry. Oh, I remember her name. It was Granny Chio, I think. Anyway, she helped a lot. It took a while to get her to agree to tell me a bunch about my time bloodline, but in the end, she did. Naruto said with a nod of his head, feeling satisfied that he had resumed it pretty well. Wait, Naruto. How did you get her to tell you? The Hokage inquired. Last I heard, she wouldn't talk to anyone about the past, or really anyone at all. Oh, did I leave that part out? Naruto questioned, getting a nod as his answer. Well, it was on purpose, 'cause I want to leave something for you to think about. Naruto winked at the old man and walked out of the office, glad he avoided looking stupid. He took a second to stop by the mission center, as he had a plan to work on something soon, but sadly didn't have the money for it. So he went by and picked up a few Chunin-level missions, but only ones within city walls, as those were the only Chunin-level missions available to him. XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD. Kami, I hate manual labor, Naruto said as he dug his shovel into rocky ground. What was his job again? To dig a trench for a farmer who lived in the agricultural part of Konoha, aka rich part of town. Why was this a Chunin rank mission? Oh, that's right, 'cause the old bat that lives here has a bunch of money and can afford to pay a Chunin to do this. Hey, wait. Why am I doing this myself? I could make a bunch of clones to help, could get this done in a fraction of the time.
Hey boy, yeah.
Boys, you don't look like Chunins. Why am I paying for a Chunin when I don't get one? Akane yelled at the group or dirty Narutos. She was old, but could still make her voice carry quite a distance. One of the Narutos paused to consider the question. You're right, we are not Chunin, but we can still accept Chunin missions within city walls. The Naruto yelled back. Pleased with his answer, he went back to work. Almost done. Then we can head back to Ichiraku for supper. Getting a round of applause and a few whoops and whoos before they all went back to work. Oh, okay. Akane yelled back, feeling slightly stupid, not knowing who she was talking to, so she headed back inside to get some tea. An odd pack of boys, good workers though. I wonder why they all look the same. 3 to 1. Done. Yes, finally. I'm starving. Naruto mentally cheered. He dismissed his army of equally dirty clones before throwing down his shovel. He then ran toward the large barn-style house to tell Akane that he had finished. Akane? You here? Naruto said as he opened the front door, dusting himself off before he entered the house, as shoveling for so long had left him quite dirty. Yes, Naruto? Have you finished already? Seeing him nod in reply, she continued. Would you like some tea? You look like hell warmed over. And where are all your friends? She said with a laugh. No thanks, Akane, but thanks for the offer. I should be getting going. Just wanted to let you know that I had finished. Oh, and them. They were just clones. They make the job move along faster, Naruto said back with a smile, deciding that this old lady wasn't as senile as he had thought. Waving goodbye, he walked out of the front door and started his way home. Weird to have an older lady be nice to me. I'm used to all the frowns and mean looks, well, one person at a time, I guess. Naruto paused in the middle of the road for a split second as he slowed time. No point losing a few hours of this beautiful day walking. That was his last thought before he sped toward home. XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD. When he got home, he thought of going and seeing Hinata before supper, but decided that he still wasn't sure on how to approach her. I still don't know. After last time, I'm not sure how I feel, and I don't want to do anything to embarrass myself. Naruto, are you okay? You're not eating. I am, said to Naruto, while leaning on her elbows on the counter in front of Naruto's bowl or ramen. Oh yes, sorry. I have a lot on my mind is all. Naruto responded, going back into his mind, not even being able to finish his sentence. He shifted in his seat, seeming to be mulling over something uncomfortable in his mind. Well, share away. What's on your mind? And don't let your ramen get cold. I exclaimed. She turned away for a second to grab a chair to sit on, as her feet were bothering her from standing up too long. Well, I don't know. I'm not quite sure what I'm thinking about. You're a girl, you could probably help me though. Naruto again shifted in his seat, not sure how or what to ask I. He had known her his whole life. It's not that he had trouble talking to her. No, it's the subject. Well, see, it's just, I had gone and seen Lady Hinata a couple weeks ago. And when we were talking, I had a weird pull in my stomach. I had wanted to kiss her, Naruto said, distressed, turning as red as a tomato mid-sentence. And we sort of did. Like by accident though. But the strange part was that I liked it. Oh, Naruto, you're in love. That's so sweet. And with Lady Hinata nonetheless. It's kind of a Romeo and Juliet kind of story. I exclaimed in a dreamy tone. She giggled at Naruto's embarrassment. I am not. It's Hinata. She's just my friend. And I have no idea if she even likes me. Besides, who's Romeo and Juliet? Naruto asked, confused by Iam's statements. Maybe she is right. But does Hinata feel the same? I do really like her. She's the only girl my age that is nice to me. I don't know. I haven't noticed her showing any signs of liking me, but she still didn't jump away when we kissed. What could that mean? Ugh, I don't know. Romeo and Juliet? I read a book about them, too long to explain. Boy meets girl, parents don't approve of the boy. So on and so on. And yes, you are in love. Trust me on this one. She does like you. Why haven't you seen her? Iam was almost yelling by now, seconds away from reaching over and grabbing Naruto by the collar. I was away on missions. And, well, I was just busy, I guess. Naruto stuttered out, much alike the girl they just happened to be talking about. Does she really like me? Well, I guess now that I think about it, she does always blush when I'm around, but I figured that was because she was just shy. A look of shock came across Iam's face. Naruto, that's no excuse to not go visit Hinata. If you really loved her, you would be there right now. Iam closed her eyes and looked up at the ceiling to show her disgust at Naruto's actions. When she received no answer, she was worried she had hurt Naruto's feelings. But much to her surprise, when she opened her eyes, there was a pile of change and no Naruto around to be accounted for. Much to her chagrin, his bowl of ramen was untouched. He must really love that girl. He never even touched his ramen. Iam whispered to herself as she wiped off the countertop. XDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXDXD. Naruto had made his mind up. No excuses, no exceptions. He was going to tell Hinata how he felt. But the first challenge that came to mind was getting past the Hyuga complex guards. But as soon as he thought of it, he already had the solution: time control. He subconsciously slowed time and leisurely slipped past the guards, gaining easy access to the living quarters of the complex. Checking each room with care, he came upon only one empty room, of which he knew was Hinata's, instantly recognizing her tantalizing smell. But he was alarmed by the emptiness of the room. No Hinata. Where is she? Naruto rushed out of the Hyuga complex in a desperate search for Hinata. At an insane speed, he rushed from wall to wall of Konoha in search of her, getting worse ideas in his head by the minute, ranging from "she ran away" to "she was kidnapped." Gladly, before he completely lost it, he came upon her at the third training ground. She was sitting, leaning against the post Naruto has been tied to. She was looking at the stars. Why do I feel this way? That queasy feeling is back again. I know one way of getting rid of it. Naruto calmly and quietly went and sat beside Hinata before he released his grip on time. Beautiful night to look at the stars, don't you think? Naruto said with a smile, sitting like her, leaning against the post to her left. Without a word, he gently moved his hand to rest on hers. And at that moment, nothing could have felt more right.